Excuse me. Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Part of Your Broadway World podcast. Today we are discussing the life of James Earl Jones, who was Mufasa in The Lion King 1 and 2, and also Darth Vader in the Star Wars franchise. He passed away yesterday, so we're gonna talk about him, his life legacy, and all he's done. So, and we're gonna discuss it with Justin Spurr of the Spur of the Moment podcast. So let's welcome Justin.
I came prepared with James Earl Jones's filmography.
Awesome.
So, I have a Wikipedia article open with all of the stuff he's been in, which turns out is a lot.
It's a lot. It is.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff I didn't even know he was in.
Oh, me neither.
Some
of which I've seen, actually. That's made it even funnier.
Like Fantasia. I didn't know he was in Fantasia.
He was in Fantasia?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And Sandlot and...
I did not know that. What did he do? And I looked through this earlier. What did he do in Fantasia?
I have no idea.
Look at that. Yeah, Coming to America, The Hunt for Red October. The one that I was like was I watched Doctor Strangelove. Apparently, his first movie is Doctor Strangelove. I was like, seen that movie? I didn't recognize him.
So today we're discussing like we're just talking about now. We're discussing James Earl Jones and his history.
Yeah, his life and career.
Yep, life and career.
Life and career. The good. Look, man. Okay, here's the thing. Up front, I was gonna come into this and be like, I don't think I've ever seen him be bad in anything. And then I remembered the 2021 Lion King movie existed. But then I was like, he passed away yesterday, so I feel like I should be cool about this. So we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about the movies I like, which include the original Lion King. I like the original Lion King. I like him in the original Lion. My thing with any actor is if you can hit a point where you can just show up on a thing as yourself, like that's the dream, right? Where you just like one of my favorite James Earl Jones moments is, I don't know if you ever watched The Big Bang Theory.
Oh my God, that episode's so hilarious.
That episode's so good. Yeah, where he shows up and he's hanging out with Sheldon.
He's obsessed with Sheldon.
Yeah, he's like, you like Star Wars? I like Star Wars too. And they keep messing with Carrie Fisher. Like, I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's indisputable. My guy's got like one of the most iconic voices of all time. I mean, you got just Darth Vader. Darth Vader alone. If nothing else, him passing away, I knew that it was going to be a thing. Like, I knew that AI Darth Vader was going to be a thing, but just like the knowledge that it's ever present and coming, just it's that I think is maybe the saddest part. Because I mean, truth be told, my guy was 94 years old. He was a very old man, and you know, he lived a long, healthy, and inarguably a productive life. So you know, it's sad. It's sad that he passed away. But like, look, if I live to 94, that's a good day for me.
Yeah.
I'm just looking through this filmography. He was in Driving Miss Daisy. I did not know that.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. There's all these movies I'm like, I gotta watch Driving Miss Daisy.
He was in Driving Miss Daisy on Broadway.
Oh, was he? Okay, so yeah, okay. So that's an excellent place to start since you're the musical person. I one of my favorite performances of his is, are you familiar with the movie Fences? or the play Fences?
No.
Fences is the if you've seen the movie, it's Denzel Washington, and he also did a version of the play, and it's like a poor black family, and he's like the dad, and there's a really you can find a clip of it online. There's a really like solid one of my all-time favorite monologues is from that play, and it's him basically talking about his relationship with his son. It's really good. I can't remember what year it is, but you can find it on YouTube. It's really really good. And I think that's what's great about him is he was such a versatile guy. Like
Mhm.
when you look through this this filmography, you're like you got stuff from Malcolm X again all the way to like Lion King. And
Mm.
when I was looking through the filmography, I was shocked how many times he was just willing to be Mufasa. Like he loved that character. Like he came back to be Mufasa a lot, just for fun. Like I don't know
Yeah.
if you've ever seen. I didn't watch it because it's way too young for me. But apparently he came back for the Lion Guard to do the Lion Guard, which is
Yep.
the
Yep.
TV show, the Lion King TV show. Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know how into that I am when they're like, oh, it kind of for me that show kind of undercut the daughter a bit, where it was like, oh, forget the daughter, we have a son now.
Right.
um, but yeah, it surprised me that he came back for that, and also just all the times he came back as Darth Vader,
Mhm.
like Rogue One. All the times he showed up in the shows, like again, he loved him. Can you imagine a world where, because I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a really great documentary where you get to see the guy who's playing Darth Vader, who's not the voice, and it's just like this like sad little Scottish man who doesn't really have that scary of a voice. But can you imagine if they hadn't had the thought to replace him with James Earl Jones, like how different that character would have been? Like his
That would be tr- polar opposite and just not as terrifying.
I don't think it would have been. He definitely brought that gravitas to that character. And I think what's interesting is like as that character went on, like he's a different kind of the performance is different in the first movie. And I think that's really cool. Again, iconic, absolutely
Yes.
iconic.
Yes. Yes.
I guess yeah. I guess we could talk about his theater. His theater. He's got a storied theater career as well. Wow, The
Mhm.
Merchant of Venice. That's pretty. Winter's Tale. Interesting. I
Yep.
didn't know that was a play first because I know of that movie. I think there's a version of it. Am I thinking of Winter's Bone? I might be thinking of a different one.
Yep.
There's a
He
version
was
of it.
also he was also in Cat on a Haunted Roof.
Was he? Oh
Yep.
yeah, he played Othello. Wow, man, I'm gonna be looking up some Hamlet. He was Claudius in Hamlet. King Lear. Oh, that's so interesting. He did a production of King Lear in
Yep.
1973. That's close to my heart. I've done a production of King Lear. That's
They
pretty
even
cool.
named a theater after him, the James Earl Jones Theater.
No kidding, huh?
Yep.
Interesting. Oh, okay. So looking at this, he was that's so interesting. Um he played Lenny. I don't know if you're familiar with of Mice and Men. I read that book in high school. He played Lenny. It's hard to describe. If you've never read of Mice and Men, Lenny is hmm, I don't want to say feeble-minded, but like a simple kind of guy. He just wants to like own like a rabbit hutch. He's like he's sort of a simple minded, and the idea is his partner or friend, George, kind of looks out for him, and so that's
Mhm.
just kind of in the movie. There's a movie he was played by John Malkovich. So that's a very different role for him. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting. He's again, this is all very interesting. He played Othello more than once. So he played Othello once in 1982 and then another time in the 70s previously. Yeah, 1964. He played Othello,
Mhm.
and then he came back to it. That's it. See, what is that? That's like 20 year difference. Can you imagine coming back to a role? I guess that's what he did for Mufasa to come back to a role like that. It'd be interesting to see 10 years later. Because I found when he went back to Mufasa, he just wasn't able to for that Lion King movie, the live action one. He just wasn't able to get to the places. Like I think Mufasa as a character, he's far more he's far more interesting in the animated.
Yeah.
He's
Oh
he's got
yeah.
more. So here's a question, tying, so we're going to talk about Mufasa. How do you feel about that that prequel?
The prequel that's coming up.
Yeah, the one that's coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know, because I know you have very strong feelings that it's unrelated to James Earl Jones, but I know you have strong feelings about that Snow White one. My thing with the Lion King one is it's incoherent, like because in the prequel, I don't know if you know this, but Scar is Prince, so he's gonna be king.
Mhm,
And Mufasa comes in as like an orphan
mhm,
and like somehow becomes king and usurps uh Scar's lineage somehow,
mhm.
which doesn't make any sense because the original movie and the remake imply that that they're blood related and that it's a
Yeah,
case of like he was the firstborn. So like that trailer there's also like an evil group of like white lions who it kind of seems to be implied that they're going like the Lion King, basically that it's Game of Thrones, like they're all going to compete to see who becomes
that was
the
my problem
Lion
with
King.
it. That was my problem with it. Was like it eradicates e- uh it get uh eradicates everything from like the first and second movie.
Yeah, it makes it not make any sense because you're like, so wait, so but his whole, I mean, it's Hamlet. If you've never read Hamlet, the whole beef is that he's mad that he's the uncle who's mad that he didn't get to be king. Like that's the whole bit. So if they're brothers and Scar was first born and he was meant to be king, so that's where it indicates to me that they're going in the direction of like, yeah, the Lion King is a separate title, like he's the Lion King of all of the like all of yeah, like if you watch Game of Thrones, like the Iron Throne, like the Lion King is like the lion equivalent to like the Iron Throne. And from that trailer, to tap back into James Earl Jones, I'm just my question becomes like, how does he become? How does that even to the first one? Because that remake, he's still the James Earl Jones Mufasa, right? More or
Yeah,
less. Like they didn't do anything to change that character because they had the same voice actor come in and do it. So
yeah.
like my question is, how does he go? How does he become James Earl Jones? Like that's when it comes to prequels, it's always my question.
Mhm.
Like if you watch Star Wars, that Clone Wars show, it's always like, well, eventually he has to become Hayden Christensen. So like it's the same thing here. Eventually he has to
Well,
become James Earl Jones.
my thing too is since he's passed away, rest in peace, James Earl Jones. Since he's passed away, they better not touch that movie anymore.
I mean, well, the far more likely would, if this does well, um, which who knows, it's Disney. But even when I'm like that movie looks like crap, they do well. The brand sells the movies. But um they'll probably just do another midquel where he's not quite James Earl Jones yet, and he still has, and they'll just recast. If I had to guess, I mean, I'm of a similar mind with Darth Vader. I just again, I know I brought up AI Darth Vader, but I don't want I don't want them to try and replicate James Earl Jones's voice with technology. And I don't know if there's anyone out there who, I mean, maybe there's a halfway decent impressionist out there. I that's a character that he was struggling to do before he, like, if you've ever seen Rogue One, he really struggled with the character. The voice just wasn't quite there in that movie as much as I love that movie. So like he was definitely getting there. Like you could tell it in later in his life that the performances were like, I mean, he was getting older, and they weren't as good as they used to be. Um, so I'm just kind of as we're chatting here, I'm just peeking through. Again, he's been around for so long.
He's
He's
been
got such a
around.
yeah, he's got such a story. Wow, that's so interesting. So, um, just going through his life generally. He was in the army. He served in the military
Yep.
and he went to the Korean War by the looks of it, which is interesting. That explains a lot. That sort of informs, at least in my opinion. I understand why he became known as like a booming kind of like the only he's in that sort of school of like black voice actor, like your Kevin Michael Richardsons or your Keith David, where they just have that like really like pronounced booming, like you know them instantly. You're like, oh yeah, that's James Earl Jones. Like he's just one of those guys. And yeah, I could see him being he was a big guy, so him being in the army, it just makes sense. And it's always interesting to me when because if you're familiar with Adam Driver from Star Wars, he was also a Marine. So that's always such an interesting career trajectory, in my opinion, to go from like being in active service to being an actor. Like those are two kind of separate worlds to me, at least in my opinion, they are.
Yeah.
So let's just. I want to go. I want to look at his television because for me, that's where I recognize him the most from. Is like TV. Voice acting. I always for me it's voice acting. Like I know he obviously did a lot of on camera work and he did all kinds of stuff like that. But for me, he's always gonna be. It's always gonna be like, oh, I recognize that voice. So let's look at his television credits just for funsies. Let's see what we got here. Interesting. Oh yeah, okay, interesting. So he did a version of like, I'm guessing that's the TV movie of Roots, which is very interesting. Let me see here. In the 1980s, he was big on TV in the 19. Oh, The Simpsons. Yeah. See, that's where I always knew him.
That's what
Yeah,
I was gonna talk about too. He was in I can't remember how many episodes of Simpsons he was in, but he was in that I see him like a lot.
yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of references to him. Bleeding Gums Murphy was a character that was a kind of a reference to him. But according to this, he was only in 3 episodes. He played 3 characters: Moving Man, Serac the Preparer, a narrator in 1 episode, and in 1 episode apparently he played Maggie Simpson. That's interesting.
Have you ever seen House?
I've never seen House. I've that's not true. I've seen clips of House. I've never actually
I
watched an entire episode.
loved
I
House.
want to though.
I loved House.
I
And
it's one
he
of
was
those
in
things
it.
where I've seen enough clips where I enjoy the character, but it's just never been on anything I have. When it comes to TV's a lot harder to, um, for lack of a better word, sail the open seas on than a movie is. So if it's like, especially if it's like a long running series, I think House is like was it like 6 or 7 seasons, something like that. It was on for a while. Was he on House? Was James Earl Jones on House?
Yep.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Who was he a major character on House?
Let me see. I don't think so. Oh, let's see.
Interesting. He looks like he did like
Doesn't
a lot of guest
say.
spots.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he did a tour of some sitcoms in the '90s. He was on if you watch Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, he was on 1 episode of that. Interesting. Yeah, see, that's my favorite thing is like looking in a really famous actor's filmography and being like, oh yeah, there's the spot where they weren't super famous. Like, so like he did 19 episodes. He was the narrator on Third Rock from the Sun. Oh, he was on an episode of Frasier. Oh yeah, Homicide. I mean, everyone was on Homicide: Life on the Street. I think if
And
you
King
watch
Lear. He was in King Lear that show.
man, I love King Lear. I have a particular I played Port Tom in a production of King Lear, so I have a particular soft spot for King Lear.
I didn't I knew it was a musical. I didn't know or not musical, like a play, but
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a TV show.
Well, I mean, it's a Shakespeare play, so um there's been probably like 1,000 productions of it. And yeah, he was in one. He played Lear. And there, I saw one production he did in the '70s where he played Lear, which to me, 1970s, like that's usually a character played predominantly, like Othello, for example. That's very much a black man. Like that's the
Hmm.
whole thing. King Lear, not so much, and especially in the '70s, that's pretty like progressive. Like clearly, and I it looked like it was pre Star Wars because Star Wars was like the thing that like made him famous. Like that's the thing where he like I said he did Doctor Strangelove like the year before, a couple years before. That was his first movie, and then he did Star Wars, and then boom, he's huge. But it's funny because yeah, there's clearly a point in the '90s where he's like struggling. He's struggling for work because like he's slumming it on some TV. Like he's doing an episode of Frasier. He's doing Third Rock from the Sun. Like he's on TV, and it's funny. You get into like 2003 and on, and he's just himself.
Mm.
Oh yeah, here it is. Here it is. He was in an episode of House. He played Diabola in the episode called The Tyrant. I don't know what that is.
Oh, I
Um,
know that. I know what episode that is.
oh yeah, that's funny.
It's
Um,
disturbing.
and then obviously, yeah, he was a big he showed up a lot on the Hugh Laurie, not Hugh Laurie, Chuck Laurie shows. So he was on an episode of Two and a Half Men where he played himself, and then obviously we talked about Big Bang Theory where he played himself, which is again one of my favorite episodes. It's just the way he says I like Star Wars too. It's so funny. And it's just them pranking Carrie Fisher. Oh, also R.I.P. Carrie Fisher. But my big thing is I always feel kind of like a jerk because when really old people die, I don't feel like the reaction to him dying I thought was kind of over the top because it's not exactly I wouldn't use the word tragic because again he's like 94 years old. It was one of those like every day you open it up and he's still here. He's probably like an extra day, you know what I mean?
Well, what I don't respect is the fact that a couple days before he actually died, it was like a rumor going on. I don't know if you saw it online, where people kept
Oh.
saying that he had died
Oh, see,
days
that's not cool.
days prior, and it was always like a rumor, and it wasn't true. He was still around.
I've heard there's been times where like you're familiar with TMZ, but I feel gross that I used to be into them. But if you
Yep,
follow TMZ,
that's where it came from. That's
yeah, it
exactly where it
always
came
comes from
from.
TMZ. Apparently, there's been times where TMZ will break a celebrity death, and that's how the celebrity's family finds out. Like that's fucked. Like
Yeah,
that is awful.
yeah.
And like then they're not. I don't respect them journalistically, even though they want to be taken seriously as journalists. I just don't respect them. Again, I
They did
used to
that to
be.
Betty White too, I think.
Yeah, there was someone else they did that to. I want to say Matthew Perry. They also but there was someone in particular that like they got sued for it.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was. But yeah, there was someone in particular where it was like their family found out from TM, and that's terrible. That is
Like you
so
have to be
terrible.
fucked in the head to think like that doing that's okay.
I mean, the thing that people tend to forget is that like celebrities are still people,
Yeah.
and like I hate those people. There's nothing that irritates me worse than people who are like, oh, they're celebrities. They by being celebrities violate their right to privacy, or they give up their right to privacy
They're
by being a
people.
celebrity. It's like, ah, man, they're still people. They still have feelings.
Yeah.
Like there's two examples I always like to use. And to be fair, making your own thing will drastically change. I'm sure you're probably becoming aware of that, but it will drastically change how you interact with media. At least it did for me. Where you're like, man, like I don't know how into the internet you are, but like that like Cinema Sins, Nostalgia Critic, angry video game nerd style, like you just get
Mm.
angry and you shit all over everything. I used to be like that. I used to be very much be like everything sucks and this movie sucks and it's bad and the person who made it is a bad. Like I used to the best examples. I used to shit on Adam Sandler
Mm.
and I watched one of his specials where he talks about how his wife comforts him while he feels sad about the Rotten Tomato scores of his movies. And you're like, oh yeah, he's a person, and like when you say he's a bad person for making bad movies, that obviously hurts
Mm.
his feelings.
Yeah.
Or maybe an example maybe that might have more meaning to you. Jonas Brothers. Were you a Jonas Brothers person?
Oh, I love the Jonas Brothers. I love
Um,
them.
my one of the my well, I mean, my friends are huge Jonas Brothers fans. But I've been with them from a career standpoint since they were Disney Channel people, and I watched on Amazon Prime. Totally recommend it if you haven't watched it. But there's a really good documentary called Chasing Happiness that they did.
Mm.
That was
Yep, I
about
seen it.
yeah, that was about their comeback and them getting back together. And there's a point there's two points I really liked in that movie. And there's a point where they're all Kevin's it's a clip of Kevin on the phone with the woman who would become his wife, I think. and Nick and Joe are like hassling him like brothers would. Like I do my brother. Like they hassle each other, and he gets annoyed and he tells them to. And it's a real like older brother kind of like you guys need to piss off or I'm gonna kill you kind of moment. And it made them feel human. It made like, oh, they're human, they're brothers, they get pissed at each other. Like, and that was so cool. Or another really great moment is when they talk about the purity ring thing and how the media just tore them a new asshole over it and how like that hurt their feelings. And that those kind of moments, and also I'm a Tenacious D fan. There's a documentary, same thing. Those moments where you're like, oh yeah, you've put your heart and soul into a project. It doesn't matter how big or how much money or how they're still people and they still have feelings. And like, I will never personally attack a person for their work. I will. No, I'll try my best unless their work really self-reflects them. I will try my best not to be like the thing is bad, therefore you're a bad person. Would never do that. Like that's not cool. But yeah, stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, right. They may, stand in front of a million people, but they're still human, and they have families. And a big thing for me is always to be being like, I always try to put myself. I find it fascinating. What must it? Because I assume, James Earl Jones has a family. In fact, let's find out. I assume he's got like a son or a daughter or a kid.
Yes, I
or
believe
grandkids,
so.
I suppose, or great grandkids at his age. Find out. While I stall.
Married to Cecilia Hart, and then he was married to Julianne Murray from 1968 to 1972, and then
Oh yeah,
again, and then he married Cecilia Hart from 1982 to 2016.
interesting. Oh yeah, she died of ovarian cancer in 2016. Yeah.
And then he has a son, Flynn Earl Jones.
Interesting. Yeah, I always wonder like what it must be like to be Earl Jones. So sorry, Flynn Earl Jones, you said?
Yep.
So he's got the same middle name as his dad?
Yep.
I mean, not that I'd be ashamed of that, but that's very interesting. I I always wonder what it feels like to like it's such a more so than like what does it feel like to be a celebrity? Like you just can't put yourself in their perspective. What does it feel like to like have your dad be James Earl Jones?
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess I've seen decent documentaries where like kids of celebrities will kind of like there's a really good one where like Jim Henson's kids kind of talks about it. Where like yeah, the world has sort of partial ownership over your dad, and that's kind of weird.
Not just that though, but like as like a little kid when your dad did the Lion King, like imagine you being a little kid and being like, yeah, my dad's Mufasa.
That's what I mean. To me, that's what I would be like. But then you read about these guys and you're like, no, to them they don't. Most times they don't really care, or at the very least they don't care until like they get older. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's kind of neat. Um, because yeah, that would be so be for me. Yeah, Mufasa. Yeah, how do you like go to school as like I assume his kids were young when he. I mean, to be fair, in a lot of cases, that's why these celebrities do those movies. Is so they have something that they can, especially if they do a lot of like in his case, a lot of Shakespeare. Um, that him doing so much Shakespeare just it makes so much sense to me because it informs a lot of his characters who are that sort of explains why he did Lion King because I'm sure he probably saw the parallels to Hamlet when he was reading the script,
Well,
right?
now that I think about it, and this is probably less we'll talk about the Lion King because well because this is about James Earl Jones, but I didn't realize until we were just talking about it a couple of minutes ago how similar Hamlet and Lion King are. You can like
Oh
it's
yeah,
I never noticed that
really? Oh yeah, that's yeah. Lion King is straight up.
until just
Sorry.
now.
Oh, that's so fascinating. Yeah. No, I can't remember where I learned that. I learned that a long time ago. But yeah, it's straight up Hamlet. The Simba is Hamlet. See, I don't know the characters in Hamlet well enough to know them. But yeah, obviously Scar's the uncle. And then but how familiar are you with Hamlet?
I'm
because
not.
because because Timon and Pumbaa are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. And in
Is
fact,
Guinevere in Hamlet, or is that?
oh, it's been so long since I've read Hamlet. I honestly don't know. I just remember Hamlet. I remember Rosencrantz and Guildenstern because the Lion King 1.5 is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Mm,
And no, that's it. That's it. That's
mm.
all I remember. I was gonna say I vaguely remember the uncle's name, but no, I don't. It's not coming to me.
We read Hamlet in high school, so.
I mean, like, but even right down to
Or no,
um
or no, we didn't read the book. We watched the movie.
we read the play. We read the play, and then well, I didn't read it in high school. So thing about me, I told the story on Toon Talk, I think, but I took English 12. Technically, I took English 12 3 times.
Mhm.
So I'm from Canada, and in Canada we have when we hit 11 grade 11 and 12, you have an option to take two types of English, communications and regular English.
Mhm.
Communications is easier. It's the thing. It's less about writing essays and more about communicating ideas. So I took that. So I wanted to be a writer. When I wanted to be a writer, I decided I would upgrade my English 12, go back, and that's when I learned Hamlet. When I went
Mhm.
back as an adult. So I wasn't a teenager reading it, but I technically took it. So yeah, that's when I read Hamlet. And we did both. We read the play and we watched the movie.
Right.
Because my teacher was like, the movie's different. And the movie's good. It's Kenneth Branagh, and Robin Williams is in it. And I can't but yeah. Lion King is straight up like to the point that yeah, he literally there's the bit in Hamlet where he sees the ghost, I believe it's the ghost of his father. That's in the Lion King when he sees
Yeah.
the ghost of his father. And
Mhm.
the second one is Romeo and Juliet, obviously.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
Which
don't
we
know if it's
talked, which in like a couple weeks, because I did a West Side Story with Jake, so
oh yeah.
that episode is going to come out soon. This episode's going to come out next week.
Okay, interesting.
Mm.
I mean, real quick divergence into West Side Story. Oh, you must be used to divergences with Jake. But no, I'm kidding. I always make fun of Jake.
Yeah, I am actually.
Yeah, yeah.
It
No,
just goes in one ear out the other with the.
what spoilers for my show, which I'm you're coming on that, and so is Jake. So it's going to be Divergent City. Um, we are just to give you a heads up, a little sneak preview. Um, I maybe saved a story about the Wicked trailer for Saturday, so we're gonna spend some time talking about Wicked. And
Thank you.
Jordan and Jake are just gonna have to deal with it.
Oh my God, thank you so much. Oh
I
my
yeah
God, thank
I saw
you.
I saw it, and I was like, you know what? And then I watched the trailer, and I'm like, I have to make fun of this, and Haley's got to be there. So I skipped it. I bumped it because I knew you were going to
I'm
be on this week.
going, if you make fun of it, I'm tearing you a new one.
I have exactly two jokes to make about it,
I'm
and
tearing you a new one.
and a question as a person who's never seen Wicked. So that's something to look forward to for Saturday. Because yeah,
I am tearing
I
you a new
saved it. I
one.
was like, because George just wouldn't have. George just wouldn't. He wouldn't appreciate it in the same way you would. He would. He will. I already told him what the joke
Yeah,
was. He laughed.
yeah,
But
he will. But you
he's not
make
going to
fun of
appreciate it the same
Wicked.
way. No, okay.
You make fun of it, I will tear you a new one.
Here's what I will say. One of my favorite songs of all time is Defying Gravity. I love that song.
Yes.
I love the Glee version of it. And I love Kurt singing it, and I will sing its praises on Saturday. But um Lion King. So yeah. When it comes to his Shakespearean like background, it does make me wonder how much that informs not even Mufasa, but also Darth Vader, because Darth Vader is a very Shakespearean character. If you're depending on how familiar you are, he has that sort of Shakespearean kind of
Mm.
gravitas. I've learned that. I've now done like it's so funny because when I graduated high school, I swore I would never touch a single shred of Shakespeare for the rest of my life, and then I wound up doing two plays. So I'm like I've read a version of Taming of the Shrew and a version of King Lear. So it's like I'm more familiar. It's made me appreciate Shakespeare. It's
Mm.
I find when it comes to like really dense material, you appreciate it so much more when you're an adult. Like I think high school is such a bad time to teach kids Shakespeare because they just don't appreciate it.
We read a passage of King Lear, and then we watched the movie,
Oh yeah.
and then we watched The Crucible and read the
Oh, I read that book as well.
book. Which, by the way, The Crucible is like terrifying.
That's refresh me. That's the one where it's like the Salem witch trials, right? And the movie
Yep.
has Winona Ryder in it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
You're not sure if she's crazy or not, I think is the idea with
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I read that in communications. My communications teacher, he was one of those like um he was really into weird out there. So we always like to make us read weird stuff that I was like, oh. And then all my friends be like, we're reading this boring story. And I'm like, actually, my one of my favorite ones was when they let us do Kite Runner. Because that book gets really dark in the middle. And it was really I was like, how are we gonna navigate this? And we just avoided it. Quite funny. But no,
And
one of my
then
favorite books I ever read was in high school, I Am the Cheese. And that was a teacher who was like, we're gonna do weird shit.
we also read The Great Gatsby
I
too.
never read the Great Gatsby.
I loved the book. I love that book, and I loved the movie. I remember watching. I watched the movie like years prior, before high school, and then when my teacher was like, "All right, we're gonna read The Great Gatsby, and then we're gonna watch the movie after we read the book."
Was
I
there
got so happy.
is this the Leonardo DiCaprio movie or was there a movie
Yeah.
prior? Oh, it
Yep.
was Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, so
Yep.
you, as I said, that's so fascinating. Okay, well, maybe that shows my age. So you were in high school when that movie came out. I was longer. What year did that movie come
No,
out?
no, I was high school after it came out, like
Oh,
way like years after.
oh, interesting.
I was in
What year did
like
that movie
fifth
come out
grade
then?
when it came out,
Huh?
I
Because
think.
that makes me wonder. What now? I'm going to Google this. What year did that
What,
come out?
what did that movie come out?
Great Gatsby is 2013, but also
2013. So yeah, I was in middle school.
really
Yep.
fascinating. I had long
I was
since graduated high school by
in
that
like
point.
sixth grade, seventh grade.
That's not true, actually. That's the year after I graduated. Really? 2013? Really?
Yep. I was in the eighth grade.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'd already long since graduated. What am I doing? I'm doing math bad. I graduated in 2008.
Mm.
So that is past my movie theater time. Because there's a period I worked at a movie theater for like 4 years. So there's a period from I think about 2008, like 2012, where I've seen pretty much everything.
Mm.
Like pretty much because we used to get free movie passes. So I'd be like, it's a Tuesday at like 2 o'clock. I'm bored. Let's go watch a movie. So like, for example, I would never have watched Stardust had I not worked at the movie theater. I fucking love that movie. If you've never seen Stardust, I highly recommend it. It's a great movie. Um, but I would never have watched that movie had I not worked at the movie theater. But this is one of those ones where it's just out of my purview. I wanna watch it. It's on my list because I'm a big Leonardo DiCaprio fan. Um, he's only been in one movie I didn't like, and that was the movie he won the Oscar for.
I did like to point out, like, I do want to talk about go back to Wicked just for a split second, just for a
Yeah.
split minute, because I just found this out. Did you know? I just found this out like yesterday. It's the first the part one because it's gonna be in two parts.
Yeah, I knew that,
Part
yeah.
part one is 2 hours and 33 minutes.
I heard that, and that's going to be my question for you on Saturday when we talk about it, because that doesn't make any sense to me because I heard the play is only like 2 hours and 40 minutes long. So how is that possible?
I don't know. That's
How is
what was
that?
my question.
I was like, okay, I know we're splitting it in half, and it's going to be a nice, comfy hour and a half long movie, right? Like musicals don't ever need to be that long. Like
Well,
there isn't a
that raises another question: is how long is part two gonna be?
I mean, unless it's completely because tradition. Okay, this is a musical theater podcast, so we'll talk about how musical theater works. Act two is always shorter than Act one. It's just how it works. Like always, like
Yeah, but
Act one
Act
is
one's not
usually
2.5 hours long.
no, like Act one is like a typical. I mean, a typical Broadway or musical usually runs about 2.5 hours. Sometimes it pushes three, but it's like yeah, usually your first act is like an hour and a half, 2 hours,
Yeah.
and then your second act like 40 minutes. So what on earth have they added to this to pad it out to 2 and 2? And that's where I'm
what
like,
scares me.
I'm not super familiar with Wicked, other than its basic premise and like and like 3 songs. I know
Popular. And I know
popular.
popular. I know defying. I
Obviously,
know. I don't know why I'm saying I don't. I don't know if you. I knew
you've
it. I
seen
know
it.
every single fucking song. I know every
I
single fucking
know,
song.
yeah, I know popular. I know yeah, obviously defying gravity, and then
Ferocious.
because I knew you.
For
For
good.
good, for good. That's the only one that I know. I
So you don't
honestly
know
the
Ferocious?
no, no. And to be fair, I only know Defying Gravity because of Glee. Like there's a
You
lot
need
of
to download the soundtrack and
there's
listen
like a
to it.
lot of well, I now that there's a movie, what I like to do when it comes to musicals, is I like to watch unless I organically discover it on my own, which happens sometimes. I like to watch the movie clean without any preconceptions, and then I'll go back and I'll be like, well, how different is this? Um, what did I do that with? Well, we were gonna talk about Mean Girls, but Mean Girls I did that with. Um, and there's a lot of them where I'm or I mean Les Mis. I love looking back. If you've ever heard the original demos for Les Mis, I so recommend it
I
because
haven't. I'm gonna look that up.
it, it if you're a fan of Andrew Lloyd Webber and you like Phantom, if you like Phantom, it's really Phantom-esque. Like the original, it's like how the Phantom is like really synth heavy, like that. Yeah, it's a lot of that. So the original soundtrack or the original, I don't know if they did a concept album for it, but the original album, if you can find it, it's a lot, especially the opening number, super synth heavy, like really synth heavy. It sounds surprisingly different. My favorite version of Les Mis is not the movie. I like the movie, but no, my favorite version of Les Mis is there's a concert version, Jonas Brothers, ironically, where Nick Jonas is Marius. The 2010 concert. It's my favorite version. Matt Lucas as I can never pronounce his name. Tanya, the guy who sings Master of the House. He's really good.
You said Phantom, and my heart like broke because I don't know if you've seen this, but
I know what you're gonna say.
they're
I
doing a
have. I
young
did see it.
adult version
Well, it's not even.
of
It's okay.
Phantom.
Here's the thing. It's
But
not even. It's
Kenny
not even that they're
Ortega.
doing a young adult version. It's the High School Musical guy is doing it. So Kenny Ortega is doing
Why?
it. So it's gonna be. I mean, you're a lover of Descendants, so it's gonna be like a Descendants, yeah, High School Musical. Although to be fair, he's not all bad. I'm not a big enough Phantom fan to like be horribly broken up about it, but um,
I'm broken. I'm
my thing
broken. I'm
is
heartbroken.
my thing is he gonna modernize it? Like, is it gonna be a thing of like it's gonna be
Oh
in
hell
France
no.
and it's gonna keep all the names, or is it gonna be like this takes place in like a high school or like a young, like how are we gonna change the? Because really all you really need to nail is the girl, obviously the Phantom. Because but to be fair, there's also a lot of like that one. There's a lot of like what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say sketchy. That doesn't feel the right word. But there's a lot of like dubious consent happening in that story where I'm like, I don't. And to be fair, I think in the one of the original versions, I'm a big fan of Lindsay Ellis, who's a
Yeah.
YouTuber. Yeah, and she did a bunch of videos on Phantom of the Opera. So I've never actually seen it, but I'm really familiar with it and its sequel, which apparently sounds very bad based upon descriptions. Oh, you're familiar with the sequel? That's amazing.
Uh
I've heard it's bad.
it's not good, but
Yeah. She described it as being very very bad. Like it's doing a disservice to the original in a kind of a major way, which I
are you
thought
talking
was
about
interesting.
Love Net Never Dies?
Yeah, See Love Never Dies. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I
Never
mean, it's
again. I've never
not
seen it.
terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible.
I just
I
heard that
like it.
what was it that it changes something. Man, it's been so long since I watched that video. But there's something about it, about the third or the second act, that something about the ending, from what I recall, that like is really quite not very good. And apparently it's based on a book, because I think the original fandom is based on a book, I believe, and
Yeah.
apparently like
Yep.
most versions of the book cut out a particular character. But what I will say about Kenny Ortega, I thought Julian the Phantoms was severely underrated, and the fact that show didn't get that show got
They're bringing it
fucked by
back
COVID. There's no, they're not. Please,
too.
the Julian the
Julian the Phantoms
Phantoms.
too.
No.
Yeah, I
Okay,
saw
when
something.
we're done here, I'm absolutely going to be googling that, because I heard it wasn't getting a second season. Like it
It
sat in limbo for like the longest time, and then eventually they canceled it.
like the title I saw was like Julian the Phantoms too. So I don't know if it's like a
What? You just made my day. That makes me so happy. That show got fucked by COVID, and I will never forgive it for that, because that show should have been way bigger than it was. They should have done a tour. Like the reason why that show didn't do well is because it's entirely based upon a rock band with actors and sing like who can actually perform. So like they should have been doing like talk show appearances, performing these songs. Like it was a good soundtrack. Like
yeah.
honestly, you've seen Julie and the Phantoms, obviously.
I mean, two like maybe I've seen. I mean, I haven't watched it, but I've seen like clips
Good. It's on
on like
Netflix. It's really
TikTok.
good. It's like it's genuine. Like I Unset Emily. Oh, oof. Like it's one of those things. I saw a clip of it. TikTok is good for a great many things, and seeing clips like that makes me go. Like I saw the clip of, because I knew the bad guy. I forget his name. Um, but he's apparently from the Descendants, and oh, I forget what his name is. Not Matt Bomer. I don't think it was Matt Bomer. But anyway, I saw a clip of him singing the song "Other Side of Hollywood," and I was like, "What is this?" Again, like I need to know. And so TikTok can be great for that, where it's like I see clips from shows, I'm like, "What is this?" And yeah, I watched it in like an afternoon, and I texted my friends, I'm like, "You need to watch this show. The music is so good." And yeah, it ends on a pretty major cliffhanger, and I was disappointed it never got a second season. It definitely deserved it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Um.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm obviously not a High School Musical fan. I'm way too old, but I appreciate it for its contribution to culture. So like by that notion, I will absolutely like, not maybe not watch it, but pay attention to what he does with Phantom.
Greetings, boys and girls. My name is Isaiah Vargas. For over 3 decades, R.L. Stine's Goosebumps has reigned as one of the best-selling book series in history, spawning a monster franchise that's lasted since 1992 and spawning a massive fan base. Folks who love to talk about this influential series, and that's where we come in. Join the Goosebumps crew, Nick Shaw, Bjorn Panelik, and myself every week as we dive into the world of Goosebumps and talk about everything from the books, TV shows, movies, video games, merchandise, and so much more. Many like-minded Goosebumps fans and a growing list of special guests join us, so if you want Goosebumps, get with the program. Tune in to the Goosebumps crew every week on YouTube and audio platforms. Become a Goosebumps crew member today. Listen with the lights on.
I don't need a High School Musical version of fandom, please.
I mean, well, look, for me, when it comes to musicals, especially old musicals like that, or long running musicals like that, I become interested in what are they doing with the orchestrations? What are they doing with the score? How are they changing the music? How are they making it different? Like that's the number one thing for me when I watch a new adaptation or a new take on a musical that especially one that I'm familiar with. It's why I did not care for Dear Evan Hansen, is because like um you want to hear what, although I didn't mind the orchestrations in that one, but you want to hear what they do, how what this person's idea of the music is, because sometimes like yeah, newer productions of it I like better. Like if you're a
Mm.
Sweeney Todd fan, fucking love the Josh Groban, love the Josh Groban Sweeney Todd, big fan of the Josh Groban Sweeney Todd. He his Yeah, I really like his Sweeney Todd. So like sometimes they just a revival just sounds good. Sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do. They genuinely do. Like I really wish, I really wanted to see see if I could see some of Gutenberg the musical, because I'm a big fan of Andrew Rannells and Josh Gad.
I wanted to see that so bad, but I couldn't go to New York in time.
Yeah, well, I watched a bootleg of not a bootleg, but I watched someone else's adaptation of it, and my understanding was their version was so drastically different. And like I say, I'm a big fan of them. Andrew Rannells, I watched a bunch of 4Kids stuff, and it's crazy to me that he started off in 4Kids. Like his first musical is he was James from Pokemon. Like they did a musical adaptation of Pokemon, and he played James of Team Rocket. Like it's wild that he went from that to like Tony Grammy Award winning. So at any time I'm like, if you feel down on your career, just remember he wore a purple wig and was James on stage. And now he's picking up Tonys and getting nominated for Emmys, and like he's a majorly respected sort of power on Broadway. I also wanted to see Merrily We Roll Along, because I'm a big fan of Daniel Radcliffe.
I'm excited for the Pro Shot.
They're making a Pro Shot?
Yes.
They
filmed it and they're putting it in the movie theaters, just like they did Waitress.
That's the Daniel Radcliffe Jonathan Groff version?
Yep.
Ooh,
yep.
I might have to go watch that.
Yep.
That's awesome. Here's the real question. Does Jonathan Groff hawk a proper loogie? If he's not spitting at me, if he's not spitting at me, I don't know that I want it.
That happened one time in Hamilton, and you can't just
and they didn't cut it out. No, it was amazing. It honestly, I love that moment. I love that moment because like, if you've ever been in a production or on stage, moments like that, you're not supposed to see that. like you're 100% not supposed to see that. But because it's up close, that's why Pro Shots are kind of sticky. That's a good Pro Shot. That Hamilton Pro Shot's a good Pro Shot.
Yeah.
But like I enjoy Pro Shots that understand that it's going to be filmed, that incorporate cinematic elements. Which is why I like that.
I'm still mad at Jake. He ruined.
Oh, he doesn't like Hamilton? He made such a good point about Hamilton. Okay. Here's what I will say as a person, as an external person when it comes to Hamilton. I enjoyed that musical because I'm really strange. I enjoy the parts of the musical where it stops to give me a history lesson. Or I'm like, I'm lost. What is and then Hamilton or Aaron Burr just explains what's happening. Okay, I get it. He did this. Okay, that makes like for me. Okay. Now here's a question. I don't know if I've ever asked you. If they were to make a Hamilton movie, how would you want to see it adapted? Like, would you want it to see it like it's 100% straight, it's historically accurate, and they're singing rap? And here's my pitch for it. I want it to be, because again, my favorite moments in that musical are the fourth wall breaks. And like, I kind of want them to do it where Lin-Manuel Miranda obviously doesn't play Hamilton, but he plays a history teacher. And the whole framing device of the movie is it's him teaching about Hamilton to his class. And then that way you can give him an original song where he raps about how excited he is to teach history, so he can get that original song nomination. And then that way you can have moments in the movie where the characters appear like in costume in the classroom and talk directly to the class. And then that's how you can represent those. Because like my favorite bits are where Aaron Burr just breaks down and like breaks the fourth wall and like talks about how mad he is at Hamilton to the audience. Like I love those moments, and I wouldn't want to lose them in an adaptation.
Here's how I would do this. I would do it that way. He's a teacher, but as like the camera fades to fades, it could as he's talking, it like transitions into like the world of 1976 or whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Is like it's partially it is in 1776. Like for the most of it, it's like historically accurate. It takes place in like 1776 and all that.
But
and
then
it's in the colonies.
Yeah, but then have Lin-Manuel Miranda at like when he's not explaining it to his students, um, play Alexander Hamilton and have the original cast play all of their parts.
Here's the thing. I know that it can be done, because Rent obviously has the original cast. Now, I'm not a big Rent fan, but I've heard that it works out in that. I've never seen. I'm not a big Rent fan. Again, that's another one. I know like one song, and that's obviously Seasons of Love, and that's kind of it. And I think I tried watching it. I'm not a big opera guy, so I don't like it when there's no dialogue, and that musical is pretty much all music. It makes it hard for me to follow the story. Like I need dialogue. I'm just that way. It's the same reason why like I like the music in Les Mis. It's just that story is hard to follow at times. For me anyway. But so I'm not against bring back the original cast, but it doesn't always work out, and it's been a very long time since a lot of these people played these characters. The only reason why I think it's sort of more possible with them is they're not like trying to play people of a certain age. Like there's a sort of timelessness to their versions of these characters, where it's like, yeah, if Lin-Manuel Miranda is a little older, it's not such a big deal. But that having been said, I would like to see someone else try this, and I think having him play a separate character would be kind of more interesting. And then that way you could, like I say, what I would like to do is like, yeah, like at the end, for example, my favorite moment of Hamilton, one of my favorite moments is at the end where he comes back out and he's no longer Hamilton. He's now Lin-Manuel Miranda, and he shows the ghost of at least that's how I read the scene. He's showing the ghost of or the spirit of Eliza, like all the work she did, and she had that moment that how the play ends with her being like, like I would love that. I would love that where it's I don't know if you watch Doctor Who, but one of my favorite episodes of Doctor Who. Oh, okay, there's a really good episode of Doctor Who where they go back in time and they meet Vincent Van Gogh and Vincent Van Gogh, and he's obviously the sort of tortured genius or whatever, and he's worried that his like legacy isn't going to amount to anything, and as far as he understands it, he's a loser of a painter and everyone hates him. And he, at the end of the episode, they take him as a way to sort of soften his madness, because this is right at the end of his life, right before he kills himself. In order to soften his madness, they take him to the future and they show him his work, and they have the theater played by, or the art director played by Bill Nye. They have him like basically say all of the contributions that he had to history and society, and you see him just break down and weep. And it reminds me of that moment in Hamilton. And I would love to see a similar moment where we literally get to see Eliza, like get to see this stuff. And yeah, I would like to have it where like one of my favorite songs is the one where it's like they're writing the letters to each other at the very last song before they duel. I would like to have that where like that final song that Bill Burr sings, where like pulls back and he has that the world was wide enough for both Hamilton and me, and he's in the classroom like pleading to these kids, being like, remember me differently, I wasn't all bad. Like that play for me is just as much Aaron Burr's story as it is Hamilton. I like Hamilton. I got really into Hamilton, and then the pandemic happened and I didn't get to show off my love of Hamilton.
I'm just mad at Jake for ruining it for me with the fact that, well, he just spoils it in the very first. I'm like, shut up.
I hadn't thought of it that way before. I thought that was funny. That's a very valid point. But my argument to that would be, my response to that would be, it's a historical figure. So like, granted, I didn't know much about Alexander Hamilton, but he's gonna die. Yeah. So like, if it's about the life and time, so like, I understand that the framing device of having all the characters who you're gonna see show up at the beginning to tell the story that you're about to see. I get it. That's one of those criticisms I'm not gonna say is not valid. It just doesn't bother me. Because there were elements of that musical where I didn't like. I fully expected him and Angelica to get together. Like I didn't expect him. I was not expecting him and Eliza to get together.
Well, here's the thing though. I say Jake's wrong though, because without Aaron Burr in the beginning saying that, and yeah, quote unquote spoiling it, but the whole musical is about like his life leading up to that point. So it doesn't matter if he said it.
It's kind of
in the beginning.
It's sort of similar to oh my god, this is such a far pull, but it's the only thing that's coming to mind. But it really reminds me of obviously Citizen Kane, Rosebud, where the rest of the movie is about finding out how he got there. Like he's gonna Rosebud and die at the end, which well, how did he get to Rosebud? I'm sure there's a more contemporary example. That's just the best one I could think of. Where you're like, well, yeah, the play is about finding out how we get to Aaron, why Aaron. It's not so much about like finding out that Aaron Burr shot him. It's about finding out why Aaron Burr shot him. That's more what the music is about. But I do agree. I like Alexander Hamilton, but the song, but it really only is there because it got popular on the internet. You could cut that song out and start at My Shot, wouldn't really make much of a difference. Like I mean beyond the fact that you need like a little bit of framing to explain, but you could just be like, it starts with him arriving at the colonies. Like all that opening song really does is explain his background and his life, but you could accomplish that in other places in the play. Like you don't necessarily need it, but that song got really popular prior to the release of that movie because of that. I don't know if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. There's that clip of him performing it for the first time at the White House, where he comes out and he's like, yeah, I wrote this I'm writing this like spec album about the person who I think it encompasses hip hop, Alexander Hamilton. Everyone laughs at him like he's crazy, and then he does the song. That clip is totally worth watching just to see like that's where the musical started. Like that's where Hamilton started was there. And that is really interesting because he plays Aaron Burr, and how the song kind of functions differently. So it's just one character as opposed to like 15 different characters all coming out. And it's just, it's structured differently. And I'm not going to say it's better.
I don't know. I disagree. I feel like you need that. I think you need that beginning part. I don't think.
Look, I love Hamilton, but if I'm being critical, there's a lot of songs I would cut out of that musical. Like Hurricane is another one I would absolutely cut out.
Love Hurricane.
Oh yeah, but poor Lynn can't sing it. He can't sing it.
He can't.
Bro, if you're gonna write music for yourself, write it in your vocal range. Write it in your vocal range. Why would you write a song not in your vocal range? It's absurd. It makes you look ridiculous. And then film a pro shot where everyone can see that you can't sing this song that you wrote for yourself. Like the funniest trivia about Hamilton is the fact that he was gonna play Aaron Burr, and everyone goes, what? Like, no, absolutely not. There's no universe where you're playing. Aaron Burr's got too many soulful ballads that Lin-Manuel is not vocally capable of singing. He's a great rapper. He cannot sing. Well, he couldn't sing. He sings better now. But back then, he wasn't a great singer. That's why if you've seen In the Heights, if you've ever seen his version of In the Heights, that's why his character doesn't sing. I will say I don't love In the Heights. In the Heights didn't do it for me.
I loved In the Heights, but I love how like we were starting to talk about dear old James Earl Jones and his life, and then we just like pivoted
into general Broadway gossip and news, because unfortunately James Earl Jones is just there's nothing dramatic about him other than to say like he's had a storied career, and like he's played some iconic characters. This is indisputable. Like whether or not you like where The Lion King is currently or where Star Wars is currently, whether or not you believe that Darth Vader is an overexposed character, which I can see the argument for. When you close your eyes and you picture Darth Vader, there's like sort of two things you picture: the breathing and the voice. And if not for him, there'd be no voice. Like it's really, really that kind of. I will say, the character as he's written in those movies is kind of one-dimensional, but that's the point. And I just don't. He never played the character beyond that one dimensionality, but it's a great voice. It's a great voice.
And I will say though, too, I completely forgot about Lion King 2.5.
Oh, you mean Lion King 1.5? Lion King 1.5 is
1.5.
Lion King 1.5 is good though. That one was good because that was kind of at the ass end era of those straight to DVD Disney movies where they actually managed to get, I want to say, most of the original cast. I know they got Timon and Pumbaa back, and that's kind of the most important ones. I don't know if they got Matthew Broderick back. That movie's really fun though.
That movie came out on my birthday.
Did it actually?
Yeah.
Same
as Mulan. I got 2 Disney movies in my year.
Did it? Wait, Lion King 1.5. Really?
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna definitely Google that because how old was I when that came out? I remember the trailer for that movie because the big thing with that movie was it was like Timon and Pumbaa. 2004 it came out. Interesting. I was 14. I was 14 when that movie came out. But the big thing with that was it was Timon and Pumbaa were present at most of the events of the first movie that you didn't think they were, and they were just in the background. Mulan's 1998. That I know. That movie came out in 98.
Yeah, that one came out in 1998.
Yeah. You might be thinking of hold on. You might be thinking of Lion King 2.
The Lion King 2, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. The Lion King 2 came out on my birthday.
Yeah, 1998. That one came out. That movie.
I don't know why I said 1.5. I'm like, that's not right.
It's very funny because when people would shit on those straight to DVD movies. Also, I think he's in that. I'm pretty sure he comes back as Mufasa's ghost or Mufasa's spirit at one point. I don't know if he does a voice in it, but I know that he comes back for it.
Which, by the way, I don't remember Lion King 2. I don't think
okay. That I was 8 years old when that movie came out, and I very much owned that on VHS, and I watched the shit out of it. I am generally forgiving of the straight to DVD Disney movies. I like that one, and I don't think it's that bad of a movie.
Was that straight to DVD?
Oh yeah, it was absolutely straight to DVD. Yeah.
Nope.
That one did not get a theatrical release. The Lion King 1.5, I think, almost did, because that one's got a budget. Like it's got way more of a budget than Lion King 2 does. But
I loved Lion King 1.5. I like the beginning when like where Timon and Pumbaa are like in the movie theater trying, and there's like scooting along. You just see their silhouettes scooting along.
Mystery Science Theater. Mystery Science. Yeah, there's like parts throughout the movie where like pause the movie. Yeah, it's very fun. I quite like Digatana. That's a great song. I think Lion King 2 has a great soundtrack. I love the songs in that. I don't know them. I don't believe. I'm going to look it up. I don't believe Matthew Broderick is in that one. I think it's a voice match. Almost entirely positive it's not him. I'm going to stall while I quickly Google it. Oh no, it is. Oh, never mind. I was wrong. He is very really. I didn't. Have you ever seen the Scream movies?
Ghostface? Yeah, I've seen them.
Apparently,
they're terrible.
What? Oh, I don't have time. I don't have time to tell you how much you're wrong. We'll do a Scream episode, and then I can tell you like another day. I'll tell you how much you're wrong. No, I'm kidding. But no, it's interesting is that chick who plays the woman who plays Sydney Prescott is Kiara, the adult daughter of Simba, which I did not know. It's very interesting. Sorry, when you're a kid, you don't really care about. Oh yeah, I knew Andy Dick was in it. Yeah, when you James Earl Jones as Mufasa, he's in it.
Yep.
Apparently Scar's in it. I've seen this movie so many times. How did I forget that? Apparently Jim Cummings plays him in a brief cameo. Didn't know. Now that's so interesting because I think Jim Cummings played him in Kingdom Hearts 2. And Jim
Cummings played a lot of like those characters. I'm surprised.
Well, fun fact about Jim Cummings is A, I've met him, nice guy. And B, he sang like the second half of Be Prepared for that's a pretty common piece of trivia. But he sang the second half of like.
That's what I was going to bring up was he sang "Be Prepared." I'm like, how? What?
Well, he claims he sang the whole thing, and a
Yeah,
lot
he
of people
claims
a lot
that
of people
it's wrong.
a lot of people say that he's full of shit. That you can if you know, like, apparently it's like it was like one verse, and if you know if you're aware, if you're familiar with music, like, at all, and you're like listening to people's vocals, you can tell. You can tell that he that when it's not him. And once someone points, I watched a video about it, and when someone points it out, you're like, oh yeah, you can clearly hear where it stops being Jeremy Irons and it starts being, and it's like, again, it's like one high note at like the end of the song. But also, I think Jeremy Irons insists that no, that's not true. So who knows? But yeah, he was Ed in the original movie. No, I like the second one. I like the a lot of the music. There's a lot of I like some of the music better in the second one than the first one. That's not to say I don't like the first one. I just think they're more varied and interesting. Like, not all of it's good. Like, there's a song called "Upendi" that's not very good, but the rest of it's good. Yeah, The Lion King. There was a guy who got really famous called Confused Matthew there for a while. He kept saying that The Lion King was a bad movie. He's upset. So today's episode is sponsored by the Spur of the Moment podcast, everybody. Come join us every Saturday. We're going to do this. We're going to sit here. We're going to talk about the news. Time to talk about the Minecraft.
Okay.
It looks bad. So we're going to talk about movies. That new Joker movie is apparently terrible, and I want to see it so badly because I hear it's awful. We're going to make some jokes. We're going to have some laughs.
There's a lot of funny jokes in there. There's a lot of weird jokes in there. The Channing Tatum one will always make me laugh. Especially when you hear the behind the scenes stuff. Like, when you hear the behind the scenes story of how they just phoned them up.
We're occasionally going to have other people along for the ride.
A really fun fact, though, is I learned last year that that Coraline was Leica and not Disney.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I can see why you would make that mistake. Yeah. Because it does seem like it's a different. And to be fair,
that would be a horrifying, terrible Disney movie.
It would be, because yeah. And we're just gonna have a generally good time. George, do you have anything else you want to say about our podcast? Make people watch it.
We watch movies. Sometimes we watch shows, but we always have fun.
Here
on the spur. Three, 2, 1. On the spur of the podcast moment.
Yeah, we nailed it. Nailed it. Podcast. Yeah. It's Spur of the Moment podcast every Saturday. We nailed it.
You can expect awesome content like that.
We cut flawless promos every single week.
When I got the news that, James Earl Jones died, like I said in the beginning of this episode, like, I thought it was just a rumor because that had been going on for a while, and it ended up not being true.
When it comes to celebrity deaths, I usually, if it's really sudden, there's been a few times I've seen some pop up, and I go, "Oh, really?" And then you go to Google, and it's like, "Nope, still very much alive." Betty White was like that for many, many years. I mean, the Betty White meme was always like, and it's Betty White's birthday, and she lives another year. She was like it was like Groundhog Day. Wait, she passed away, right? I can't remember if she's still alive or not. Yeah.
She's
when
dead.
she finally died, I was like, oh, it finally happened.
Yeah,
but again, it was
tired.
Sudden, but also it was like he's one of those celebrities where like I opened it up and I went, I'm not surprised. And there was another celebrity who passed away recently that was really old. But for me, it's way more when they're like in their 30s or 40s, and it's like tragic, or like 60s even at this point. Like when Robin Williams died, I was like, whoa, that's harsh. Here it's like, or Stan Lee. Stan Lee was the last one.
We still don't know how James Earl Jones died too. They're still looking into it, but I'm like, it's old age.
Peacefully. I was just gonna say peacefully in his sleep, if I had to guess.
It's got to be old age. There's nothing to look at.
Yeah, it's got. Yeah,
the guy was 93.
But then you wait several months and you find out like Matthew Perry was killed by a neglectful doctor and a shitty drug dealer. So like, it's one of those things where I suspect it was probably old age. But the one thing I will say about him, I just really hope we don't hear any stories of elder abuse. Like, that's the most depressing, is when you like see I don't know if he did a ton of convention appearances, but like Stan Lee, for example, when he used to do convention appearances, and they would just like wheel him out in a wheelchair, and it was sad. It was like, at least here you didn't have that where it was like, oh, James Earl Jones is doing convention appearances at age 90, and you just wheel him out and have him sign Darth Vader pictures. Like I didn't hear any of that.
They did that with Tim Curry.
That's that's one where he's in a wheelchair now, and every time I see him, it feels. Although me and Jordan talked about it on our show, he's doing a movie. He's doing a movie. Yeah. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like a horror movie. But yeah, he's doing a movie, so he's doing all right. Yeah. We talked about how iconic Tim Curry. You want to talk iconic voice actors? He. I will make the argument has never been bad in anything. Like anytime he shows up, like I watched a television show from the 90s, like, oh, there's Tim Curry. He's always great. There's never been a voice performance I saw him do where he was putting in half the effort. He always gave 110%. Like if he could find a way to make a voice sexy, he would. Like Hexus is weirdly horny. Like that's a horny character.
So it was.
Watch Ferngully and tell me I'm wrong.
So is Frankenfurter.
Frankenfurter is so horny, but that's to be fair to that character. That's kind of the point. That I respect. He played that character a lot. That was an example of, I believe he originated that role on Broadway, and then he came and he did it for the movie. I think most of the original cast of the Broadway version are in that movie. Yeah, James Earl Jones is like that for me, where he's just a voice. Like again, him, like Keith David, Kevin Michael Richardson. They just have that. Like I that's James Earl Jones. Like just instantly, you just know you're like, that's James Earl Jones.
Here's the funny story about Keith David and James Earl Jones, because I grew up watching Coraline, that movie. Do you remember Coraline?
Oh yeah, I've never read it. I've seen the movie at least twice.
I love the movie. I kept mixing the two for some reason. I thought.
Oh yeah, Keith David is in that movie, right?
The Keith David is the cat.
Yeah, I've mixed them up.
I kept thinking it was James Earl Jones, but I'm like, wait, no,
they have a similar
too.
Yeah, that's. I used to do that. There was something. There was one of them. Him and James Earl Jones in particular. I mix them up a lot. There's a few times where I'm like, that sounds like James Earl Jones, and I open up, oh no, it's Keith David. For me, Keith David is always going to be Goliath on Gargoyles. That's where so many. Yeah. Keith David
or Husk in Hazbin Hotel.
He's absolutely Husk in Hazbin Hotel. Oh, I love that show. I actually just finished watching Hell of a Boss.
I have yet to watch Hazbin Hotel yet. I haven't watched it yet, and I need to.
As a Broadway person, you should.
Because season 2 is about to drop, I think, and
it's coming soon. Yeah.
And I need to watch it before season 2 drops, because
it's got all the people. It's got all the Broadway people. I mean, yeah, it was like Keith David.
Yeah, Keith David.
One other one. Who's escaping me? Darren Criss is in it at one point. If you're into Beetlejuice or School of Rock.
Alex Brightman. I love Alex Brightman in it. I've seen clips of him, and I'm like,
he's really good.
Yes.
He's also in Hell of a Boss as well. Yeah. Who else? There's one more. I think I don't know if you know.
Heading.
Yeah, see, I'm not super familiar with her, but yeah, she's also in it. Blake Roman.
Kiko Glenn.
Yeah. Oh man, there's one more. There's one more really big one.
Blake.
Yeah, Blake Roman. He's Angel Dust. He's really good.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Alex Brightman fan. Ever since, for me, my Alex Brightman love comes from School of Rock, the musical. School of Rock musical is really good.
School of Rock.
It's surprisingly good. Like when it came out at the same time as like they did a TV show, and at the time I was like, who is this for? But the movie's good too. But the musical is
the movie.
Movie's Jack Black, and it's really good. But the musical is
I haven't seen the musical, but I grew up watching the movie, so
if you like the movie and you like Alex Brightman, it's good. I haven't seen the whole thing. I've only seen bits and pieces of it, but specifically I'm in the band and Stick It to the Man. That's where I discovered Alex Brightman, and he does a decent approximation of the Jack Black character. Like he's doing I'm in the band is kind of it's the scene in the movie where they come. You've seen the movie. You know the scene in the movie where they come back from music class and he's all like, I didn't know you guys could play me. It's that.
Yeah,
it's that moment in the movie.
remember that one. Yeah. Oh.
And that song's really good, and he's really good, and he's got that. He's basically Jack Black in a way that's really quite impressive. He's approximating that character really well.
His character was so mean. Is always so mean to Miranda Cosgrove's character.
Oh my
God, you're so mean.
The play is kind of different, but because it's already kind of based on kind of a musical-ish movie, you get to see. And the neat thing about that play in particular is all the kids play their instruments on stage, like live. It's really cool. It's really good music. But that's where I discovered him. I discovered him watching that because I was like, School of Rock musical, what the? And it's made by Andrew Lloyd Webber. Like it's an Andrew Lloyd Webber joint. Yeah, it's quite good. It's the same thing with.
Funny to me. It's so funny to me that like he has like all these great musicals that he's written and everything, but then you have stuff like Bad Cinderella, where it's just like.
Did he do Bad Cinderella? Was that an Andrew Lloyd? Like I heard that was really bad.
Yeah.
I heard that was genuinely terrible.
Horrible. It was horrible.
It was one of those ones where I heard it was genuinely terrible, but no one really could quite articulate why. They were just kind of like, it just is. Like that was the thing with that one. It just is. Which was crazy to me. I can't
explain it. Like it's bad.
But I also think
no pun intended.
What was it called? And Juliet? I think that also looks bad. So like
I like And Juliet.
Isn't Bad Cinderella? No, that did have original music. It wasn't a jukebox. I think that did have original.
Wasn't a jukebox.
Yeah, no.
And Juliet's a jukebox. It has like every single.
Like, that I know is a jukebox, but Bad Cinderella isn't a jukebox. Yeah, that thing tanked horribly. It didn't have a very long run. And that's in a world where like the Shrek musical does well. But the one that intrigues me right now, well, two I would love to see. Back to the Future the musical. And because that has the guy who played Hercules, young Hercules. He did the singing voice for young Hercules. He plays Doc Brown. And I heard that's surprisingly good. And the other one that intrigues me is Mrs. Doubtfire. That one intrigues me so much because I'm like, how? I've seen the makeup because they revealed the makeup a while ago, and it looks like the movie.
Rob
McClure. Like, how?
Rob, I shit you not. Rob McClure, who plays Mrs. Doubtfire, in that musical and in the tour musical.
Yeah. Oh, he's doing the tour too. Wow, good for him.
Yeah, he's doing the tour too, and he sounds exactly.
I've seen clips. I've seen clips.
Exactly
I've seen
like Robin.
There's a really funny clip of them I don't know if it's the same guy, but there's a really clip of who's ever doing them. They were performing at the West End, and there's a bit where he like he's doing the bit from the movie where he throws the orange, but he throws something else at him. He goes, "Holy, that guy over there!" And the impression is impeccable, but that is heavy prosthetic in the movie, and it looks just like the movie. I'm like, how do they do that?
When I heard Rob McClure speak and Miss Doubtfire, he sounded exactly like Robin Williams, and I wept, I cried, and I had I messaged him too after I watched it. I was like, you are doing Robin Williams so fucking proud.
It looks really good. My question with that though is like, because I watched it really good. My question is, that looks like it's a really heavy makeup job.
Yeah.
And the character bounces back and forth. Unless he I guess maybe there must be, the kids must get prolonged musical numbers. I know they get at least one, but I'm like, where do they have the time to get him in and out of that makeup? Like, it's got to be a ton of makeup, like a ton of prosthetics. It's got to be, because like Shrek, for example, he's in it the whole time. So like, I've seen how they do. Have you seen Shrek the musical?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the
of course
bit,
I have.
It's a great musical. It's severely underrated. You know the bit, who I'd be at the end of Who I'd Be, where she comes out and she's wearing. I've seen a behind the scenes video of how they do that. It's really quite impressive. How fast they just put it on her, and I thought it was lighting. Like, I thought it was like it was like just they put a fake nose on her and then they just put green light on her and that was it. But no, she actually gets like a full like face thing, and like they do it in like 30 seconds. So I'm like, yeah, they must do prolonged. I know that how I discovered it was there's there's a song that the kids sing called "What the Hell," which I really liked.
I was about to mention that.
This is really good. Honestly. And it also, like, yeah, you get to see the kids' perspective because the movie doesn't really delve into that a whole time. You don't really get to appreciate how the kids are feeling. It's really more about the parents in that movie. So
I just like the fact that they kept in the flaming boobs.
Yeah,
where she like leans over and she catches her boobs on fire and she like pats them.
That's funny. Yeah, that's one of those ones that I would like to see. See, as a guy who lives in on the west coast of Canada, more pro shots. Like just more pro shots.
More pro shots.
Give it a year. Give it like a year. You know, put it out. Like let it do a run on Broadway, and then once it doesn't have to do you don't have to do a pro shot once it's on Broadway. Like I get that you want to save the show. I totally understand that. And what's frustrating is a lot of plays will film a pro shot and then just never release it. It goes into the archives, and they never release it, which is so frustrating because people would buy it. So just film it at the end of the run, right before you go on tour, because the tour version is never as good as the Broadway version.
Did you know that you can go to the New York City Library and watch the pro shots?
Yeah. Oh, really? I knew that I knew that they put them in there. I didn't know that you can actually watch them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But you can't have your phone in there, and you can't have your phone in there.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I knew that they archived them and we weren't allowed to watch them, which is such a shame because a lot of times there's so many of these that would make money. And it's especially if you get it with the original cast, like it's not gonna be the same. If anything, it's going to entice you to go to watch it, and it's not gonna be the same because by the time you've gotten there, like even if it's still on Broadway, they're on their third or fourth cast by this point. Like I'm pretty sure Dear Evan Hansen is still on Broadway, and I'm pretty sure they're on their like fifth cast by this point. So like if they put out a pro shot with the original cast, then that would have been, I think, so much better. Well, that plays complicated, but I feel like it would have been better received than the movie was.
Yeah.
But there's lots of them like that. Like, yeah, I got so much enjoyment out of watching, but also I like pro shots where like the Waitress pro shot. That's one of my all-time favorite pro shots, because that pro shot and the Shrek one, because they both know how to use cinematic language to make the art, to enhance the stage and make it more interesting.
I'm just excited because Dear Evan Hansen our season starts this week. Actually, it starts on Friday.
Oh, really? I think our season starts soon. I don't think we got Dear Evan Hansen a couple of years ago.
So I start ushering like Friday, for a comedian, Mike Epps.
Oh, I know him. He's Canadian. I'm pretty sure. No, not Mike Epps. No, I'm thinking of someone else. Sorry.
Okay.
I know him. I'm familiar. So I'm thinking of someone else. As I said that, I was like, no, not him.
But we are getting Dear Evan Hansen.
So as an usher, do you get to watch this shit for free?
Yep.
That's so you get to sit there while you're ushering and just watch it, and then once like intermission starts, you're like, okay, and everyone this way now.
Yep.
That sounds like a pretty sweet gig. I'm not gonna lie.
Yep. And
we constantly talk about how we need to get out to more theaters. It's just so expensive. So that kind of opportunity, that's pretty great.
And to bring it all the way back around to what we are meant to be talking about, James Earl Jones, we have Lion King coming. For 2 weeks.
I would love that. Okay. This is maybe a hot take. I mean, yeah, it's Lion King. Lion King, they've gotten the tour down to a science, so that doesn't surprise me.
Like they're staying at our theater for 2 weeks. I'm like, what?
I'm gonna watch it like 10 times. No. I think this might be.
I will.
This might be my hottest take of the episode, but I think that it's the only good. Well, I haven't seen the Beauty and the Beast one. But if it's anything like the Aladdin one, I think it's the only good Disney Broadway musical. Maybe Frozen. Aladdin was genuinely terrible. Like it was easily one of the worst things I'd ever seen. I was like, and it was one of those things that I thought it was so bad. I immediately went to Google and went, I cannot be the only one who thinks this is bad. Like it reminded. Okay, you've obviously been to Disneyland. No, you've been to Disney World. Are you familiar? I don't know if they had this in Disney World, because they have it at Disney California, the Hyperion Theater, for the longest time. there was a show called the Aladdin Disney Spectacular. They have that at
It's
Disney
only
World.
in Disneyland.
Ah, have you seen it? Have you seen clips of it? Are you familiar with it?
I've watched it on YouTube.
Okay.
It's hilarious. It's fucking hilarious.
I thought that was better than the Broadway musical. Like the Broadway musical was that, and it didn't have near the budget. It was so, you're like a theater person. You obviously know what a pantomime is. Like, it's silly, really. Okay, pantomime is like, typically it breaks the fourth wall and it's really silly. Usually when you do like a pantomime, it's usually of like a children's story, and they usually do it at Christmas. So the last one I watched was for like Alice in Wonderland. It involved interacting with the audience. That's what it reminded me of. It was very silly. It didn't take Aladdin seriously. And it was, the only good thing about it was wait, have you seen the Aladdin Broadway musical?
I have not, and I'm really sad about it.
I watched a bootleg. It wasn't. I didn't think it was very good. But there were some interesting aspects of it. That, like, so there's no Abu, and Iago, instead of being a parrot, is a guy. He's just a guy, but it's a guy doing a Gilbert Gottfried impression, but a bad one. So he just screeches the whole time. Every single line of dialogue, he just screeches. The version of it, the only one of the few interesting things was the original Broadway run. The original Jafar played Jafar. The voice of Jafar, he played Jafar. The version of it I watched didn't have him, but he played him for like ever. He did the run for like, I think 5, 6, like a long time, like almost 10 years. But there's no Abu. Instead of Abu, they split Abu into 4 characters, so he's got 4 best friends, and they added in, the song "Proud of Your Boy."
Yeah.
They added in "Proud of Your Boy" back into it, and he has a mother now. So that element from the original version of the movie where he's singing to his mom, he does that now, and they added in. If you ever had the Aladdin soundtrack, there's a demo song called "High Adventure." Very quick thing about Aladdin. Originally in Aladdin, there was 2 genies. There was the main genie, which is the one that eventually became the Robin Williams character, and there was going to be a genie of the ring. So he would have had access to 2 genies, and they would have been different. And so High Adventure, in its original incarnation, you can Google it. It's a great song. I highly recommend it if you've never heard it. It's very high energy, and it's sung by Alan Menken. It's really, really good. But it's 2 genies singing to each other. So in the Broadway play, instead of that, it's the 4 characters. They all sing, and they're singing. Basically, there's a point in when Aladdin gets thrown into the dungeon, they sing a song about how they're going to go rescue him, and they have their own little subplot. And it's quite good. It's quite a good number, and some of the choreography was kind of fun. But otherwise, I didn't think it was very good. Like, the thing with the genie is, if you're not trying to do Robin Williams, it's tough, and they were trying to do something different, and I just didn't think it worked. But yeah, I didn't think it was very good. The only one that I think might be worse is
they shouldn't be trying to do Robin.
Yeah, but it was like the version of Jafar I saw wasn't. Again, it was like that theme park show. It didn't have the budget or the energy or any of the effort put into it that you would think of. Like The Lion King has great set work. All the costumes are fun. I've never actually seen it, but I've seen clips of it. So like the puppetry is good. I do think that Timon gets a little weird compared to the other puppets, but still the puppetry is very good. It's well thought out, whereas the Aladdin one just wasn't. Like, and I say that as a person who was critical of the Frozen musical. The coolest thing about the Frozen musical is the quick change. Apparently the tour doesn't do the quick change and is disappointing. If you've ever seen the Frozen musical. I have not. They do a really fun quick change.
I'm excited for that Pro Shot on Disney Plus. It's coming to Disney Plus.
Sorry, they're doing a Frozen musical Pro Shot?
Yep.
Oh, see, this is why I like talking to you. You have all the best musical news. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because the best part of that music, I don't know if you've ever seen a performance of Let It Go. They do it when she in the musical, in the movie, obviously when she does that, changes her outfit to simulate that on stage. They do a real fast quick change. And most versions, I've seen the tour version of it. It doesn't look great, but most versions of it look really. It's one of those things where it looks cool on film, and I imagine if you're there, it looks like spectacular. Oh, real quick, because I imagine you probably want to wrap this up. I have to ask you, because I'm not going to get a chance to do this on Saturday. Do you genuinely? I saw clips of that. We obviously had a disagreement about the Hercules musical. do you genuinely think those costumes are good? Please tell me you don't. They're
No.
not. They're not
No.
good costumes, right? Okay, thank God.
They're not the best. No.
They're just boring. They're boring. I was like, the staging was boring. The choreography was boring. Like my thing with the Disney musicals is being able to sing the songs well is not good enough. Like, yeah, they're singing the songs well, but there's 5 cover artists on YouTube who can sing the songs well. Like, that doesn't mean much to me. There's a bunch of cover artists on YouTube who do this better. Like, that's not an impressive feat. So it's all about the staging for me. But I was like, it's at D23. Maybe once it's in its actual theater, it won't look like total shit. Like, but it just looked really boring. That was my main thing about it. But also watch it. That's so cool, the pro shot. I wonder. I really like the Encanto, what they did with that when they did like a pro shot almost of that concert. So again, Disney coming in with the pro shots. Like, that's because they had a pro shot of another musical that I hadn't heard of. Then I opened it up and I was like, what is this? And it was like, oh, it's a pro shot. Oh, sweet. Like, I like the fact that we're making pro shots. Like, I watched a pro shot of the Tim Hortons musical, which was genuinely very funny.
If you I don't know if you've seen it, like things about like a Shucked, the musical. It's basically a musical about corn.
I recognize the premise. I seem to recall hearing something about a musical about corn, but I don't recognize the name.
It's called Shucked, and they're getting a pro shot too. So
awesome. That's so awesome. I love that. That makes me very happy because it's the only way. Like, when I worked at the movie theater, we used to have a thing. It was like the Saturday morning or Sunday morning opera, and every time they had opera, it was like, and they treated it like it was a theater. Like, it was, you were watching it in the theater. So it was like 3 hours long was the full broadcast. There's an intermission in the middle. Like, they would bring in like coffee and snacks and like all sorts. Like, they would have a separate person run the opera, and then they had a similar thing, but it wasn't quite to the same production level. But they had a thing with the National Theater where like you would show up and like they would have plays and you could watch it at my theater, and they would air them, simulcast them to my local theater. And that was the only way I got to experience theater, because otherwise I can't afford theater. Like sometimes like $130 a ticket for one night is a lot to justify. I'm jealous that you get to just be like, come to your seat, sir. Ooh, musical.
But
that's a sweet gig. Here, sit here. Oh, the pretty dancers. Like, I'm jealous. I'm not gonna lie. It's a sweet gig.
Yeah. And there's a woman I'm going to interview in a couple of weeks, maybe, hopefully, once we nail on the schedule. And like, she's a teacher, so like she like teaches you about musical theater stuff.
Oh,
and
really?
like how to like book shows and stuff. And
cool. So does she, like, when you say teach it, does like she teach it in like high school kind of, or is it like a more college kind of university level kind of thing?
I don't know.
Interesting. Could you when you talk to her, maybe ask her that for me, because I'd be curious, because I've always wondered, or maybe you know this, what the difference is in sort of like staging a musical. Because obviously I didn't take musical theater in high school, but in terms of like the actual product, the actual musical itself, like, is there a difference between like teaching this stuff to teenagers or kids versus adults? I'm interested in that.
Well, she did the Anastasia the musical, actually.
The actual Broadway musical?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Can you ask her why they cut Dark of the Night?
I will. She did the soundtrack to that.
Did she actually? Yeah. Okay. Genuinely, I want to know why they cut In the Dark of the Night. Like, that's like that. I couldn't engage with that musical because it upset me so much that they cut that song. And to my knowledge, that the musical still has Rasputin in it. I don't know that I don't believe it has Bartok. I think Bartok doesn't make the cut, but I'm almost entirely sure Rasputin is still in that musical. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't actually know.
He's in that musical, but
yeah, he is, right? He's still the bad guy, right?
No, he's like a healer, like and this is gonna be like a whole different podcast.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him historically, but like
historically, he's a healer.
Yeah, I know that like in the movie, the version of him in the movie is like not what obviously.
Yeah,
But, so
they
so
went
that version of
toward
him is not in the musical then.
yeah, that version of him is not in the musical, but
Oh,
the
okay.
but the
Okay, then that makes
healer
sense.
version of him is
Oh,
in the
interesting.
musical. Yeah.
Interesting. So I guess they clearly cut it. Is that I'm guessing
They like
again.
did like half historic and half not.
Oh,
They kind
interesting.
of
So
blended the two.
other than I know that they do I know that they do a journey to the past, but other than that, they don't do a lot of or there's not many songs. I did once I heard In the Dark of the Night wasn't in it, I kind of became decidedly less interested.
All of
But
the songs from the movie are in there,
interesting. So
except for
in the Dark of the Night.
Not.
So
But they created like songs
oh
to
yeah,
fill
they always
those.
do that.
Yeah.
But like so is it more or less the plot of the movie, but they just cut out the Rasputin subplot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And the villain of that story is named Gleb, who was one of the Russian soldiers that the family.
Oh, interesting. So it's more closer to being historically accurate than the movie
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. Interesting. That's one I'd love to watch a pro shot of. There's a lot of those based on a movie musicals where I'm like, I'd love to see a pro shot of that. Because that's where those ones are more interesting to me for this exact reason to know like, oh, what's the difference? How do they change it? Like for the Shrek musical, for example, that musical is way more introspective than the movie is.
Like the whole storyline is basically like Gleb's father when Gleb was a young boy, his father was the one that killed the Romanov family. So and then there was a rumor that like Anastasia was still alive. So when Gleb was older and when Gleb was older and everything, he set out to finish what his father couldn't.
Oh, okay. So there's still there's a bad guy chasing her thing, but he's not magic in this one.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
How interesting. I mean,
his magic is the gun.
I obviously I prefer the magic stuff, but oh, okay, that makes. But you could still totally do. I guess maybe not. You can't do that, but you could rewrite. See, what I would do at that point is I would rewrite the In the Dark of the Night to reflect that character more and make it a similar song.
Gleb's magic is the pistol. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Because me and Jerome, we watched the I don't love change for the sake of change. And so we talked about you were on the episode where we talked about Prince of Egypt Pro Shot. It bothered us how they changed like the one song that everyone knows. And so that's when I'm like, oh, but like In the Dark of the Night, other than A Journey to the Past and a Walk in December, or like it's like the one song people know from that musical. Why would you cut it? But to make it more historically, so then that's still set to the backdrop of like they're trying to pass her off as fake Anastasia, but she's actually real Anastasia. That stuff's still all in there. That's incredible. That's so interesting. That honestly does, as much as I love the movie, does make that story kind of better.
Yeah.
It does fix the Disneyfication of that story.
Yeah.
Which is a big criticism of that movie.
And then for all of you guys that are listening and watching too, I did a episode like last year with Justin where we talked about my Fair Lady where we talked about the sort of stuff too. So if you want to go check that out, I'll leave the link down below. But yeah, James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I mean, it always diverts. I mean, he was a Broadway guy, right? So it always diverts. He diverts to Broadway. And like I don't like to reduce him to like 3 or like to 2 roles. He did a ton of stuff, and he was he was a larger than life personality. Just generally, he was a big larger than life guy, and it's sad to see him go. But like I said, it was coming.
Born in the 1930s.
Yeah, the fact that I will say, I did learn some stuff today about James Earl Jones. Like I did not know he was in the Korean War. That was a thing I learned today. Very genuinely, very sincerely. His theater career is impressive.
Yeah.
Like
he's
more
a
so than his
legend.
film. Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk so much about his movies because I sort of realized as I was looking through them, I'm like, I'm aware of these movies, but I've never actually seen them.
I didn't know that he was in Sandlot.
That I didn't know. I think that's funny you say that because Jordan, I think he watched The Sandlot. No, not The Sandlot. Might be no. What's the one where it's Billy Bob Thornton, not Billy Bob Thornton. One where it's like the guy yeah, no, maybe this is The Sandlot. I think he watched The Sandlot for the show. It's funny that he didn't mention that James Earl Jones was in it. But I find nowadays my big thing is that there's no James Earl Joneses really in this like current era.
There's never going to be.
We're kind of losing the like big, like, at least in my opinion, like the big. I mean, maybe there. And somebody in the me and Jake always do this. Maybe somebody in the comments correct me. Jake will probably correct me, but yeah. I just don't think there's any contemporary actor like who was on any of the level of these guys who are like in their 70s, like your Robert De Niro's, your Morgan Freeman's, your James Earl Joneses. I just don't think contemporarily right now there's anyone like them. That's my age. Anyway.
Well, there's not. And we're losing them fast like flies here.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they're still we're kind of seeing the transition, the transformation of some of the sillier guys into serious guys. So like you got your like your Adam Sandlers who are like, they've transitioned into being these more dramatic kind of guys. And I think maybe that's where like we'll see the next generation or next set of those kind of like those James Earl Jones prop up of those guys we didn't take seriously in like the 90s. Maybe they're finally starting to come into that period where we're going to take them seriously. Who's to say?
But Justin, I'm scared. I'm really scared though, because now that James Earl Jones is dead, like I don't. That means that Dick Van Dyke is probably next.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's still around, ain't he?
He's like 98.
He won an Emmy recently. That's pretty incredible.
He's 98, almost 99. And
he's one of those guys who every time I see he's still alive, I'm genuinely surprised. I'm like, oh, he's still around.
He works out every single day, he says.
In Mary Poppins, like the Mary Poppins, the new one, they're like,
he met Walt Disney. He met Walt Disney.
Oh yeah, I mean he very much met Walt Disney because he was in Mary Poppins, and
yeah.
Well, I mean I don't think he was quite as involved as Saving Mr. Banks kind of makes it seem, but he was pretty involved in the making of that movie because that was still when he was very much in control. So yeah, I can't lose him. I mean, for me, his brother Jerry Van Dyke is also a treasure. I love both of those guys.
May he rest in peace.
Did Jerry Van Dyke die? I didn't know he died.
Yeah.
Did Dick Van Dyke outlive Jerry Van Dyke? Wow. Yeah, I watched Jerry Van Dyke on a show called, I believe it was. I think he was on.
Who's older? Do you think?
Well, I mean, at this point, Dick Van Dyke, but no. Honestly, I don't know. No, I know. I think Jerry Van Dyke is younger. I think he was his younger brother.
That's so weird. If Dick Van Dyke is older, then how is he still alive?
I think I could be wrong, but I seem to recall because for the longest time I thought Jerry Van Dyke was Dick Van Dyke for like years, and then I discovered that because they look very similar. Like it was remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember what the show was. It was either Teen Angel or You Wish. He's like the grandpa on one of those shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that show as a kid. So like I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. And yeah, I literally thought it was when I watched Night at the Museum, I thought that was Jerry Van Dyke. And then I discovered it was Dick Van Dyke. And I was like, oh, it's Dick Van Dyke. And it blew my mind.
How did you not realize that was Dick Van Dyke?
I thought they looked so similar, and my childhood memory just kind of blended them together. And Dick Van Dyke, and my brain doesn't do to me, when a person is like young version of that person and they're older, they're just like Henry Winkler. Like when you watch Happy Days, you're like the Fonz is not the grandpa from Holes. Like they're just two different people.
Can I also ask, how is the Fonz still alive?
Henry Winkler, there's a really upsetting video of some guy getting in his way. He got caught in one of those like one of those First Amendment audit videos, and like it was so annoying. And I was like, oh man, he just looks like he's upset.
How is the Fonz still Fonzing?
He's not. I would say he hasn't Fonzed in years. He's more like a grandpa now. Like all my favorite Henry Winkler performances are like old age Henry Winkler, like Holes. I weep every time I watch Click. He's jazzy. Yeah, he's quite good if you watch Barry. But he's another one of those ones where I'm always surprised to find out he's still around. I'm like, oh man, Yeah. Him and Dick Van Dyke. Every day I see
Van
that.
Dyke, though, he like somebody asked him that, and like he literally
I think
goes,
he's
he's like,
still working. It's crazy.
yeah, like someone asked him like, how are you still like so full of energy and all this stuff, and he was literally like, I work out every single day on the treadmill.
Yeah.
I go running on the treadmill every single
Being
day.
active makes a big difference, especially when you hit a certain, like when you hit like 50, like that area, the healthier, even walking as much, if you can walk as much as you can, that will help you like tremendously later in life, because it keeps your joints and stuff kind of, and like don't be overly abusive to your body. But yeah, I think he recently won that Emmy. Like it wasn't even like, I think it was this year he won that Emmy.
Yeah, it was.
I'm pretty convinced he's just gonna die on a set, like working. Like he won't.
Don't do that.
Like,
I do knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Like it's not gonna be like a peacefully in his home kind of. It's gonna be yeah. And bless it, it'll be one of those things where like you'll read it and you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like yeah, it was about time. It was bound to happen sooner or later. Yeah, he will be one that'll be like a real loss. He's that old guy who can just be an old guy in movies, and that's
with Angela Lansbury, that hit me. That really hit me.
Angela Lansbury, she reminds me a great deal of my grandmother. Like she looks like my grandmother. Well, looked like, and when she was older, she looked like my grandmother. Especially when she did Beauty and the Beast, she looked just like my grandma. Like it was kind of incredible. And she like just was like my grandma. Like Mrs. Pot is my grandma. Like legit. Like, so yeah, that one was kind of the only celebrity death that I cried over legitimately was Robin Williams.
Me too.
I legit cried when he died.
I teared up yesterday, but like I didn't like full on like cry.
Yeah. Well, no, when it comes to elderly people, I always feel so cold when I say this. I don't necessarily get sad when they die, because again, he was 94. Clock was kind of ticking. Again, it makes me sound like a dick. But
I'm sorry, James Earl Jones, for saying that, but I'm sorry.
I'm sorry you were a very old man, James Earl Jones. I'm sorry.
I'm apologizing because I said I didn't really cry. I'm sorry.
I don't usually cry over celebrity deaths unless I'm very attached or it's very sad.
Well, all of my Disney childhood people
they're slowly
dying and leaving Earth, and I don't like it.
I was bummed out when Mickey died. When Mickey died, I was bummed out. I'll make Mickey the voice. The voice you probably know as Mickey. Mickey Mouse was obviously played famously by Walt Disney for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And then when Walt Disney died, I don't know if it was immediately, at some point in the, because Walt Disney died in like the 80s. Yeah, no, it was pretty immediately. A voice actor called Wayne Allwine.
Died in 66.
No, I've got my timeline mixed up. Then it might not be that long. It was at some point in the 80s or 90s. A voice actor by the name of Wayne Allwine. He took the voice of Mickey Mouse, and he played it for most of our childhood. So like, because we're within the same age range, so like most of our childhood, you would know Mickey Mouse is Wayne Allwine. He died in I can't remember what year. And the cute thing about him is he was married to I forget her name, not Minnie. I can't remember what her name is, but the lady who played Minnie Mouse for years, they were married. So like in real life, Mickey and Minnie Mouse were married.
I know that. I knew that.
Yeah, she also played Huey, Dewey, and Louie in DuckTales.
That was cute. It was so cute. Adorable.
It's so cute and adorable. But he died in like 2010, I want to say. And I was really sad about that, because that was Mickey to me. I was like, that's my Mickey. And the guy who took over, he just never has sounded quite right. He just sounds off. Just like if you're familiar with Bill Farmer is my Goofy.
I got very sad when Ursula died.
Yeah, that one was sad. She reminds me of my other grandma.
Something. I can't remember her name.
Pat Carroll.
Pat Carroll.
Pat Carroll. She was an icon. She was a genuine icon. Yeah, no, she was doing convention appearances like right out, and she still like was like there. She was present. Like she was so there, and she loved being Ursula, and she would just kind of like Ken Page and Oogie Boogie. Like just those guys who will be, or James Woods and Hades, who will just be the character. Like at any point, they're like, "You want me to be Hades? I'll be Hades." Like I like Hades enough that I'm willing to look past the fact that I don't like James Woods. That's how much I like that character. But like there's just certain, and he was very, she was very much like she loved Ursula so much. That was sad. That was a sad one.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. When you lose that critical voice, to tie it all back to James Earl Jones. Lou, there is a part of you, yeah, when you lose. But I think when they get old, there's a point where they retire and you lose that anyway. Like they're still around in spirit, but they're not like James Earl Jones retired, I think a couple years ago. Like I don't think he's been working for a while, because I know that I know I keep talking about AI Darth Vader, but he signed away the rights to, he agreed to let them use AI Darth Vader. So
he like retired he retired from theater in like 2015, and then he
really that recently? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then he retired from, I think he retired from acting in like 20 something. I can't remember.
Well, probably on screen stuff, which is why his filmography just kind of turns into cameos towards the end. And then he probably did because voice acting is, not to discredit the people who do it, easy in a sense, because easy. I mean, it's still creating a character and acting, but it's easy in a sense because you don't have to memorize lines. You just read from a script and you do all your acting. And my dream job is to be a voice actor, because like you don't have to memorize lines. You can do, like, I performed my best at table reads, because that's when you don't have to memorize anything. So it just makes it easier to engage with the character. And you as of today don't have to leave your home. You could just set up a little in like apartment studio where you do voice acting. Most voice actors do it on the go, or they'll bring you to they'll bring you to a studio and you do it. I know
of some voice actors that do it in their closet. They have like a walk-in closet. They go in and they shut the door, and then there's like padding on the walls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can do it just about anywhere. So that's why a lot of voice actors will do it like right up until, like, Orson Welles famously died as he was doing Transformers. Because it's not, in terms of acting, it requires less of you. I don't know if that feels like a disservice to what voice actors do, because voice acting is still in and of itself difficult, but it's not quite the same as standing on a set having to memorize lines, at least in my experience. Maybe I'm off the beat on that, but
now that James Earl Jones is no longer with us, I feel bad for never having saw Star Wars.
You've still never seen Star Wars? Yeah, man. That's one of those things where you experiencing it as an adult.
I've seen half, and I just can't get into it.
Fair enough. It's one of those things where, for me, there's certain franchises you just can't get into as an adult.
And I'm sad because I love James Earl Jones, and I'm gonna cry. But I am so sad now because I feel like I offended him.
No, I mean, well, appreciate the work that most performers or actors just enjoy, that you enjoyed any of their work. Like, that's really the goal.
Mufasa.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I love Darth Vader, but like my favorite moments with James Earl Jones, especially later in his life, was when he just was James Earl Jones and he showed up, and the whole bit is that he's James Earl Jones. Those are my favorite episodes. Those are my favorite cameos, because it's this Michael Clarke Duncan. So I've been struggling all episode. I'm like, there's one more in that. Michael Clarke Duncan, R.I.P. Michael Clarke Duncan. He was one of those, like he was one, I always confused him and James Earl Jones. Michael Clarke Duncan. What do you know Michael Clarke Duncan as? Did he do anything Disney? The only thing I could think that you know him as, if you've seen the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie, he's Kingpin. He did a bunch of stuff, but he's one of those ones, where I always recognize him instantly. And he's a voice of my childhood as well, where like I'm struggling to think of Michael Clarke Duncan stuff at the moment. But yeah, and I was sad. I was genuinely sad when he passed away. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it does. You do lose a bit of yourself. And look, just because they're gone doesn't mean you can't, like, you definitely appreciate him while he's alive. But yeah, when they pass away, it does sort of make you want to go back and like appreciate that filmography more. Mm-hmm. And it definitely has for certain ones who have passed away. When you see them show up in in a movie, and you're like, damn, like, yeah, man, the world is really missing something for them having been gone.
And you know, the way I look at it is, you know, I owe James Earl Jones and like all the other Disney actors that have passed away. Like I owe them to me becoming the Disney adult and the Disney and Broadway podcaster I am today.
I mean, yeah, that's fair enough. I'm of a similar mindset where my love of animation as an art form is not something meant exclusively for children. That is a freedom form of expression, comes from Disney. It's born from Disney. My love of storytelling is from Disney. So yeah, I owe a lot to that. So yeah, and and my love of science fiction, fantasy films comes from Star Wars. So like, yeah, he's a great part of my childhood. It's that is an undeniable fact. Mm-hmm. It's always, you do, like I say, you do lose something. You lose them.
I mean, I don't have this tattoo for like no apparent reason, you know.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I don't like identifying myself as a Disney adult because to me, Disney adults are a particular kind of breed of too far. And I wouldn't necessarily characterize
you. Too far?
No, I don't. I mean, hey, if you self-characterize as a Disney adult, all the power to you. But like, I've seen some real bad Disney adult park videos on TikTok where I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. Don't love that. Where it's like, yeah, you're taking it too far. Over familiarity with characters is like a thing where I'm like, I don't love that. But hey, not for me to judge. But yeah, I wouldn't characterize myself as one of them. I appreciate them as like studio. Like, appreciate their movies and their media, but
Mickey gave me this tattoo.
Well, wait, like Mickey the cartoon character, or like Mickey the person in the costume with the big gloves? Because I'd be very.
Could you imagine if like there's a guy in the Mickey costume giving me this tattoo?
They're pretty much doing it blind. They can like barely see, and they can't move their hands very well. You've been a lot of. I trust the car. I mean, in the sense that the cartoon's not real, but in this imaginary situation where the cartoon is like alive and like physical, like if it's like a Hugh Framed Roger Rabbit situation, yeah, I trust the cartoon more than I trust the person in the mascot costume. That's for sure. I feel like Mickey would have taken the time to learn how to do it properly. Like he's like my favorite Mickey Mouse books from when I was a kid were the ones where it was like Mickey learns how to do a thing, and like he just seems like a responsible adult. Like he just. He takes the time to learn how to do it. My favorite, though, just again, real quick, the most adult Disney character is Goofy. Goofy. He's the most well put together of the Disney characters.
Have you seen those like those mini shorts of like Goofy
okay.
learns how to do stuff?
He's a little clumsy, I'll give you, but if you've ever seen an extremely Goofy movie, he quits his job and he goes back to school. He's getting straight A's. He has a girlfriend that he's managing to see full time while getting straight A's, and the relationship goes well. And the point of drama in the movie is never the relationship. Like, there's never a point in the movie where you think they're gonna break up. The point of the point of tension of the movie is between him and Max. He's otherwise nailing adulthood. Like, he's the most capable. He's raised a perfectly respectable son on his own as a single dad. Also, me and Jordan have a theory he banged Pete's wife. Like, him and Pete's wife, that Max is maybe her kid. But he's the mom. We have that theory. Because there's number one, you've watched Goof Troop, right? This is a real weird tangent. Have you ever seen Goof Troop? Okay. Yeah. Okay. In the opening episode of Goof Troop, the reason Goofy and Max are living on their own in a trailer, and the reason why they move in next to Pete's family is because Goofy and Pete's wife knew each other in high school, and Goofy used to be on the cheerleading squad. And as a guy, you only join the cheerleading squad for one reason, and so we're pretty sure that him and Pete's wife hooked up once. It's like we're convinced of it. We watched the first episode. Like, she invites them to stay on their couch before they move in next door. Like, she's really nice to him. where if Max isn't her kid, we're definitely sure that they worked together at one point. Like if you want to be family friendly about it, dated in high school. We're like entirely positive. We're positive that's the backstory. You're looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. I will get Jordan to back me up on Saturday. It's a legit theory. If you watch that show, I'm not crazy.
So James Earl Jones.
Yeah, no, Bill Farmer, speaking of Goofy, Bill Farmer will be one that when he eventually retires and stops doing Goofy, we will lose something. Because that man, he's been the voice of Goofy since like the 80s. He took over for like the original Goofy, Pinto Colvig. He is Goofy. Like if you've ever heard Goofy speak in the past like 20, 30 years, he's Goofy.
Have you seen that? I'll have to send it to you, but there's a video on TikTok of Corbin Bleu and Bill Farmer singing.
Yes, it's amazing. I've seen it. That concert's amazing. I've seen it.
Yes,
it's so good. Yeah, it's so good.
From the Goofy movie, I'm like, oh my god.
I love Goofy. Goofy's not my favorite Disney character. That will always be Mickey. But I went on a Disney cruise like a long time ago, and the day before your cruise, Goofy phones you, and me and my brother were genuinely excited. Like it's like just a little voice recording, but he's like wishing you bon voyage, and we were like, this is rad. Goofy's calling me. Like my mom, she's a travel agent. She booked it for us, and she was like, yeah, just so you know, Goofy's gonna call you the day before, and just the way she's like, Goofy's gonna call me. And so we were driving to the airport. We put it on speaker. We were like, Goofy's calling me. And we're so excited. Like, yeah, I love Goofy. I mean, I love him. I love Donald too. Tony Anselmo. He is the current voice of Donald, and he only seems to do it part-time now because there's another guy who also does Donald who isn't nearly as good. And yeah, man, when those guys retire, similar feelings about The Simpsons, but when any of those guys retire and they pass it on, there's always a sense of like Brett Iwan is the current voice of Mickey, and he's okay, and he's gotten better over the years. He's gotten way closer to Walt's Mickey, but when he first took over, it was always just like, oh, there's just something not right about how he sounds to me because he's just not my Mickey. So yeah, whoever does Darth Vader next, I'm just hoping it's not just AI, but if that's a good voice actor, it'll be the same thing for me. Or if they ever do Mufasa again. And they recast and they try to get a voice match, it's gonna be like, that's not quite James Earl Jones. Like that will happen.
They better not. They better just leave Lion King the fuck alone.
I am like pro retire character, but it's Disney, Haley. It's not gonna happen. We're on like the third remake of Snow White.
Oh,
we're doing a live action Lilo and Stitch. That's redundant. That movie was already practically live action.
I'm excited for it. Don't ruin it for me. I'm excited. He looks adorable.
I was happy he looked good. I will give you that. I was happy. I saw so many bad AI concept art that was like, this is upsetting me. That I was just and the fact that it's the original voice does a lot. The fact that they didn't try to recast Stitch, like the fact that it's still the same guy speaking a voice, does a lot. But anyway, I could talk about Disney all day.
But anyway, James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones, you will be missed.
So before we wrap up,
okay,
is this going to go up before Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want to see more of me, I do a little podcast called the Spur of the Moment podcast on Saturday. This week. Usually we go around 11.
Wait, before, because next week I will be, because I do every other week, so it'll go up.
Gotcha.
Next week.
Well, if it so happens that this is in the future, go back and watch the episode I did with Haley. Haley and Jake, our friend Jake, who we've talked a lot of smack this episode about Jake, but our friend Jake is going to be there as well, and hopefully Haley will have watched at least maybe The Prince of Egypt because it's a musical, or Jordan also, yeah, he said The Road to El Dorado. But
watched
if you have
Prince of Egypt like 2 days ago.
Oh, excellent, perfect. You're gonna hopefully watch some DreamWorks movies, because we're doing animation that is not Disney. Or we did, if you're watching this in the future. animation that is not Disney. I'm gonna do the like Blue Sky Studios, which if you don't know that by name, that's like the Ice Age movies. I'm currently watching Rio. It's that, and then my brother, my co-host Jordan, he's gonna do like Paranorman, Kubo and the Two Strings, and he's gonna help you a little bit. He watched as a sneak preview or a hint of the past. He just yesterday watched Kung Fu Panda 4, so he's gonna talk about that for a bit. And Jake is gonna cover the works of Don Bluth. So you can go over to the Spur of the Moment podcast and check that out. I'm sure Haley's going to have a ton to say about the Prince of Egypt. Also, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this, me and Jake also have the new podcast to the network, The Final Frontier, where we talk about Star Trek, which I'm sure Haley has no interest in, so I won't talk any further on. But if you like Star Trek and you want to see me make jokes about William Shatner, it's a fun time. That starts. Well, the pilot premiered on the 8th, but the episode where we start making fun of William Shatner, that's going to be next week. So yeah, you can check that out. There we go. I did the plugs. I did all the plugs. You can wrap up in any way you see fit.
Oh, that's speaking of thank you for saying all this, because I just completely forgot to do the sponsorship spot.
Oh, excellent. I love a good sponsorship spot.
This podcast is sponsored by the Spur of the Moment podcast.
Oh, excellent. Yes. Well, I don't have time. I won't go on anymore. It's what we just did. It's talking about movies. And I have some, I have some fun. We do a bit of the news. I'm gonna bring some fun news stories. If you're into Marvel at all, we're going to be talking about maybe some Spider-Man on Saturday. And we talked about earlier. I want to talk about the Wicked trailer. That's a news story I'm definitely going to pull. And as a hint, me and Jordan have a recurring segment. We have a mystery story that I've been slowly revealing details about, and I will have revealed, if this is in the future, one of those details. If you go and watch the episode I'm going to do with Haley, it's going to be one more detail. I'm excited to reveal that. If Jordan watches this, he'll be like, "What? One more detail?" But thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Come check us out. We have fun.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, James Earl Jones, we miss you. We're so sorry for your family's loss.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that's always hard. I always feel for the family. I'm sure they want their moment to.
Yeah, the Disney and Star Wars franchise won't be the same without you.
I mean, the world's a little less without his light in it. That's for sure. That cannot be undersaid.
Theater that definitely won't be.
I mean, yeah,
without you.
Today. I mean, I love that clip. Like I mentioned it earlier, but that clip from Fences. I maybe I'll send it to you because it's if I can, because it's really good. It's a really good monologue. And he really powerful stuff. He was a powerful. I don't want to say underrated, but just I don't think people appreciated him in quite. He was a bit more than Star Wars. I guess to summate, man was more than Darth Vader and Mufasa. Yes. And I keep seeing all these memes where it's like him with Darth Vader and Mufasa, and like he played those characters, but to reduce him to that, he was quite a bit more than that. Yeah, exactly. He was quite a bit more than that. He did other animated voices as well.
Yes.
But no, he had a very prolific theater career that I think is underrepresented in talks about him. And I'm glad we got to talk about that. Glad we didn't waste our time talking about movies. This is a Broadway podcast. Gosh darn it. Gotta keep it on theme.
Exactly. Although I will say that we did waste half of it talking about musicals in general, but
hey, we stayed on theme. That's the important bit. We may have strayed off topic, but I think we did talk about a couple of movies, but we mostly talked about musical theater because you're like my one friend like who is into musical theater. I'm not even. I feel so bad. I text my friends all this musical theater stuff, and like bless their and poor Jordan, bless their hearts. They pretend to care, but like. They don't.
This episode was about James Earl Jones, though.
we nailed him pretty accurately. Okay, we talked about him thoroughly.
Yeah,
and
true.
It was everything was like tangentially related to him.
Yeah, true.
We
But
covered like the world of voice acting. He was a voice actor. We covered the world of theater. He's in theater. We didn't talk about movies so much, but who cares?
yep, we miss you dearly. We will forever miss you, and we feel for your family, and we wish wherever you are, you're at peace. And with that being said, I'm sorry, I'm leaving you guys on a low note. Please go check out the Spur of the Moment podcast. I will leave the links down below. And if you watched our episode together, comment down below on there.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, let us know in the comments. Did this go up before Saturday?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Are you watching this in the future or the past? And if so, tell me what happened. I'm curious. What did I have to say about Ice Age? I watched Ice Age. Just let me know. What did I have to say about Ice Age?
Yeah. So, with that being said, we are off. And we will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.